Hello and welcome back to the Arc of E podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we're the Blanchard brothers back in the room once again.
Yes.
One of us half vaxxed, the other on his way to being fully vaxxed.
Oh, I'm fully vaxxed, baby.
You got your 2 weeks post second dose.
Oh, is that? You gotta wait 2 weeks afterwards. Okay.
You're supposed to.
Oh.
What have you been up to?
I mean, I just been walking into random gas stations being like, y'all are losers.
Oh, that's you now?
Yeah, that's me now.
Gavin's wearing an America F yeah.
Yeah. I actually had this in extra large.
Tank.
Yeah. I had an extra large.
Big fan of the tank.
I love tank tops.
Yeah, I know you are. Yeah. Gavin, big fan of the tank.
Yes.
That's what I was getting at. Hopefully my jokes will play better now that we're in the room
yes.
together again. So, yeah.
I'm really fond of the
What are we
Abrams
here to do?
tank.
It's a 2x2 retro review.
That rhymed. I like it.
I mean, that's, I do...
You are pretty fucking funny.
I do put a little bit of effort into these show titles and miniseries and stuff. You came up with a whopper of a name for something that we're gonna be doing, but we won't even bother teasing that yet.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Very excited stuff, music related stuff.
Yes,
coming soon.
finally.
I mean, you say finally. We just did Rerun the Jewels.
That was in November, baby. It's already this year's almost halfway over.
That's true, and music is the most neglected of what is supposed to be our triumvirate of content. So,
but I think it's just because music is so. Even more than film.
We're just gonna get esoteric about music now.
No, it's just so.
Please do while I pull up my.
Go for
I
it.
have no notes. I'm pulling up IMDb pages so I don't mispronounce names.
All right, that works. But again, music is of everything is the most, I guess, subjective of the arts. Because, you think about the Y podcast we did. I went into it being like, oh, this is just some band that, like, Noah likes. And, like, he tells me they're good. But, like, I don't really know. And what it was described to me as, I was like, I guess I could get into this. And then I get in and I'm like, there's a lot here. But I would never have gotten into it if it wasn't for you telling me to. So I feel like that... I think we got to win a lot more hearts and minds with music on this show, this network. So we stick to movies because everybody loves movies.
I mean, yeah. True.
You instantly can go...
We can be a little more
on the nose
objective.
Objective.
What's good and what's bad, even though our opinions, they don't count for shit. I always like to remind people that.
Yep.
We mean absolutely nothing.
Yep, exactly. This is America. You can literally do and say whatever you want.
With that in mind... let's dive right in because we did a recent episode.
Yes.
We don't need to catch up on a bunch of what we've been watching. And we have 2 dynamite films to discuss. Picked by our listeners, we should point out. We threw up some suggestions and everybody decided on this on Instagram like over a month ago almost at this point. But we're getting it in under the wire. This is your 2x2 retro review for the month of... April. Yes. And... we are talking Super Mario Bros.
And Michael Clayton.
Yes. And we said them in reverse order, but I'm pretty sure you can guess who picked what.
Right.
For selections. Where do you want to go first? I'm down for either. Excited to talk about both.
I mean...
I feel good about both of these conversations, so it's really just what kind of mood do you want to hit first? Do you want to go nostalgia, or do you want to go... what's almost nostalgia for like a 13, 14-year-old movie at this point?
I mean, I thoroughly enjoy Michael Clayton, and because it's a new one for me and not one we both watched, I feel like we should go there first. Well,
this was your first viewing?
Yeah, I told you I'd never seen it before.
Oh, we gotta save it for last.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, no, because we discovered it on that cast. So I was like, I've never seen it. We were talking in the bedrooms, our last 2x2. And I had a plethora of movies to choose from, which... I don't think I'm ever going to do that again because it seemed like I appreciate the fan input, but I think next time I'm going to come a little bit more solid with something that's like, just watch this.
Yeah.
So, but...
we'll probably do another fan pick for the back half of the year.
Yeah, of course.
And we've got a very special one coming up with the Brothers Blanchard. Big crossover episode.
Indeed.
Yes.
Can't wait for that one.
Rocky and the Karate Kid.
I mean...
I always want to say part 1, but... I didn't call it that at the time.
Just called The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
A far superior film to Rocky, of course, obviously.
I just rewatched Rocky tonight. This is going to be a great conversation. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I don't care if I want to be the lone guy wanting Karate Kid to be the thing.
A little preview. I was sitting there tonight being like, I've seen it before. It's been a long time. I've seen like a lot of the sequels more recently. It's been a very long time since I've gone back to the original. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, we'll see if the bloom's off the rose. Like, some of this maybe hasn't aged well, blah, blah, blah. And by the end of it, I was literally in tears. I was like, I know how this ends. And I was like breaking down at multiple points in the movie. And I was like, I don't remember. This definitely never hit me this emotionally when I was a kid. And you know what I realized? Same age as Rocky.
Yeah.
We'll table that.
More thoughts
I just on that
I just have one
yeah,
but I want one question from you because I'm not going to ask it in front of the other guys. Can you differentiate in terms of watching Rocky and knowing what Rocky is and the Karate Kid as their own movie, not attached to a franchise? That's the only question I have, because I approach this as what Rocky was in the 70s as it came out and what the Karate Kid was when it came out, not knowing there's going to be 2 more movies in a Netflix show, and obviously not knowing there's going to be 13 more Rocky movies that are made. Is it 13? Did I pull that?
No.
Okay.
Way off. They're not in double digits yet.
Okay. Close.
They're getting
too.
close.
Yeah.
They're getting close.
Creed 3 would be double digits, right?
Does that put us over the top? We got 6.
6?
6 and 2 is 8.
Okay.
So 3 would be 9.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not counting the one where it's Stallone and De Niro fighting each other in boxing?
Grudge match does not count.
Okay, just checking. I didn't know if maybe he secretly was like...
Neither does Snake Eyes, even though I noticed when I was rewatching Rocky, I was like, that's the boxer in Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
Nice little continuity there. De Palma. Okay.
You know what I appreciated about Rocky before we get into this? He's, what is it? The second, maybe the second one. Maybe it's the first one. But he's asked, the guy comes up in a wheelchair, asks him to sign his cast. It's Romano from ER. I can't think of the actor's name. But he's got the headband on. He's like, hey, Rocky, you saw my head, Rock? And he, hey, there you go. All right. So, if we're not going to go with Michael Clayton, we're going to start with Super Mario.
With Super Mario Brothers.
I got a feeling we're not in Brooklyn no more.
Luigi! Benji! You better not hurt us!
They're brothers. They're plumbers.
Oh no! Mario! Luigi!
They're on the trail of a kidnapped princess and a mystical meteorite.
It's incredible!
That gives anyone who possesses it the power to rule the universe.
Get me the rock! Come and get it, lizard breath!
Now, they must rescue the princess.
Luigi!
Alien species escaping.
And make it safely back.
Later, alligator.
To our world.
Are you alright?
Before time runs out.
Shoot him! You're back, plumber! Look out, Mario! Get him! Yes! No, stop! Gotcha! No, not again!
Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game.
You know, on our previous episode, we talked about Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Excuse me. Well, I'm not going to do the voice because they didn't do the voice.
No,
I don't know
they
if we
didn't.
talked about that, but they totally screwed the pooch on that one. That was a really missed opportunity. Anyways, so we just talked about like basically where video game adaptations are. So it's nice to now
See where they all
jump
started.
back and see where it all started.
Right.
And I really was flabbergasted, like, confirming that fact. I was like, this was the first one. I was like, in the wake of, like, Star Wars and all of that in the late 70s, nobody made a Defender game, or Defender movie, rather. Like, nobody adapted Space Invaders or Missile Command or anything like that. Like, in the early 80s, it was just... I was surprised.
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
Because you forget that Tron is its own thing, and they made a game from Tron. Tron wasn't like a
Existing
into, yeah. So,
and some of the things I want to hit, we can talk about this however you want to. We don't have to go beat by beat. whatever. It's your pick. We'll approach it how you'd like to. But the one or two things I do want to cover that we didn't really talk about in relation to Mortal Kombat, but we can talk about more broadly. What's your favorite video game adaptation as a movie? And then one video game that you want to be adapted, and you can give me your Dreamcast director, whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, and we can talk about some of the bad ones too, but I figured let's talk about the positives.
Yeah, we can do that. Because,
hot take, coming off of this rewatch, I think Super Mario Brothers is fucking great.
It's a fucking classic.
I was fully prepared on this rewatch to be like, all right, I gotta begrudgingly be like, the rose-colored glasses of childhood and nostalgia for John Leguizamo. And I started to say in his prime, but no, he's still in his prime as far as I'm concerned.
Right. This is like baby Leguizamo.
The great Bob Hoskins, who I probably as a kid didn't even connect. Like, that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what's his name in Roger Rabbit?
We weren't big Roger Rabbit.
We were
kids.
not. That's and
I feel like that. I don't know why exactly. I feel like I would have been terrified of Christopher Lloyd if we watched it when I was a kid. Probably actively avoided it because I was scared of him in Dennis the Menace.
I bet they don't even lock their doors.
Exactly. Yeah. Please don't ever make me watch that one.
No.
It's on Netflix and HBO.
No, sir.
But I have not revisited it in quite some time because he's scared. The train man.
Yes. And it's one of those it's so scary and that it's because it's in this PG-13 movie that's supposed to be light and fun. It's Walter Matthau.
Right.
I mean, come on. And it's he's eating cans of beans with a switchblade.
It's very intense.
He's a very hobo-ish. Okay. It's wild.
But we're not talking about Christopher Lloyd.
No.
We got there through the great Bob Hoskins.
Yes.
Maybe eventually I'd like to make him one of the patron saints of 2x2 Retro Reviews. We've done 2 so far. This will be our second one. We still got to do Mona Lisa at some point. And there's plenty of other ones that he might pop up in that would be fun to do. Remember Unleashed?
Oh, yeah. With Danny the dog. Yeah.
Just saying, it passes the 10-year rule if you want to throw it in there. I haven't thought about that movie literally until tonight in about a decade.
Haven't seen it.
Never saw it.
I know, I never caught it. I wasn't a Jet Li guy.
I'm shocked. That's produced by, I don't want to call him your boy, but that's a Besson produced joint, right?
Yeah.
I just assumed you saw it.
Yeah, no. I mean, I knew
Rogue
the premise.
picture.
Morgan Freeman's in it. I get it.
We're getting way off track. I do want to talk about Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
I do. Okay. But yeah, I was fully prepared to be like, okay, yeah, doesn't really hold up.
Right.
And I had the exact opposite reaction. I had a total blast with it. I remembered all the beats, but it had been just long enough that
you kind of discovered them again.
As they're happening, you're like, oh, okay, I know how to finish this line. And I guess the thing I didn't have perspective on as a kid is and I feel like still nobody appreciated it at the time. They just trashed it. This is like if you let Terry Gilliam direct a video game movie.
Essentially,
and I'm not a crazy Terry Gilliam fan, but it oddly works. This really funky aesthetic. Funky even. I don't know how to describe the aesthetic of this movie other than Gilliam-esque. That's the closest thing I can compare it to is stuff like 12 Monkeys or The Fisher King.
Which 12 Monkeys came out after this, right?
Yes.
You think he saw this and was like...
No, I'm more thinking color palette and stuff of Fisher King and some of the crazy just angles and choices in general. But yeah, it's arguably, yes, an odd fit. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot made of it just it has no connection with the video game. I don't know what kind of cohesive narrative they thought they were ever going to apply to Super Mario Brothers.
I mean, apparently there was a script that was faithful to the game.
I don't understand what that would mean in a live action context. I don't know how you execute that without it just... I mean, it's an art film, I would assume.
Yes.
Which this, in a weird way, is grafted onto a supposed summer blockbuster sort of setup. I
mean, could you tell now watching it as an adult that possibly Bob Hoskins didn't know what movie he was in, as famously stated that he didn't know what movie Super Mario Brothers was until his kid showed him the game.
I had that in mind. The whole thing of like they were just blasted drunk, him and Leguizamo.
Yes.
Like everybody was checked out. They were like, "This is a turd," and I'm like, "It doesn't have that energy."
No,
at
it
all.
doesn't.
They're like totally in it.
Yeah,
they're
turning it on. That's what an actor
They're giving
is.
110%.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, it's fucking Dennis Hopper is in this movie, like acting his ass off.
Mm-hmm.
And rewatching this with Veronica, she'd seen it as a kid, and she like barely remembered anything from it. But as soon as Dennis Hopper showed up, she's like, "Fucking, is that Mommy?" That's what she always says from Blue Velvet. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking Frank Booth is King Koopa in this movie.
Yeah.
And bringing a bit of that energy.
Definitely on every level.
The secret, and again, I will agree from the jump. We should not have loved this as much as we did as kids.
Right.
The fact that some of this material was in a quote unquote children's movie,
Right.
is baffling, truly baffling. But it's also of the most cynical era or decade in our era,
Yes.
the 90s, and it's like, yeah, look at Super Mario Brothers. It's PG-13. It's dark as hell.
Yes.
We're gonna get Dennis Hopper to play the villain. So many bizarre choices, but I love every single one of them.
Of course.
And so I just want to state that from the top. I love this. So I wanted to come back and like give it an honest reassessment and say, okay, here's what works and doesn't work about it. I know it is regarded as one of the worst movies ever made, and kind of like set the trajectory for what a video game movie was going to be, which is a lot of like bizarre choices in how you adapt something that, in the case of Super Mario Brothers, fundamentally should never be adapted to live action. It makes no sense.
It doesn't lend itself whatsoever.
Yes.
But I think when you get to something like we talked about the other day with Mortal Kombat, when you get to something that like truly lends itself, that like it's not hard. I mean, but again, that's people who have taken like kung fu and martial arts action movies and decided, let's make us a game about it. Kind of lends itself for someone to come along and say, oh, I'll make that movie because it lends itself to that. I think for what they did, able to pull off in the 90s with the, it was what, $48 million? What's that, like, double today?
Yeah, and I know that's part of it too, is like, the budget was overblown. It tanked. It didn't do well because it's like people show up and they're like, this. But again, I challenge you. What were you expecting?
Exactly.
When you heard Super Mario Brothers, the movie, to me it should be an open, in the same way, oddly, that like we talked about with Mortal Kombat. I came into that and I'm like, well, there is no established canon. They change the canon of that series all the time. Mm-hmm. There's time travel. There's people coming back from the dead. There's people who like morph into other characters. There's all sorts of weird shit. So I come to a movie and I'm like, okay, it's up to you guys to pick your choice bits from this pre-existing lore, or just put a nice shell around the core of this gameplay and like give us enough narrative to thread it through. And I thought they did a very good job of that. In the case of Super Mario Brothers, they're plumbers. And you know what? They're plumbers.
Yeah.
In this movie. Very competitive plumbers. Always. It's the Scapelli brothers, right? The Scapellis are always outbidding them for the job.
Right. Which Scapelli.
And showing up early.
Scapelli's not in the game.
I love the idea of the competitive, like,
yeah.
Well, yeah, and Scapelli, I guess, is like low-level mobster, essentially.
That's what it seems.
The subtext.
They paint him in that light for a 90s character.
And not that we have to go in order, but I forgot as well. This movie opens with like narration and animation about the dinosaurs.
Yes.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
And it's like
But then a giant meteor occurred. But then something happened.
Yeah.
It's a giant meteor.
That New York accent just like.
But what if they didn't go? What if they didn't go away? What if the meteor transformed them to another alternate
like,
dimension?
Oh shit! Hard left turn.
You're like, okay, I
as a kid, you're like fully on board.
Yeah, I could totally dig that. All right, let's go. Do you think, in looking through like the IMDb trivia, that like if we got any of the deleted scenes, it would have made the movie any better than it is? Because I will argue the only thing I would have appreciated would have been to see Dennis Hopper walking around New York and being like, yeah. And that's like why New York looks like Coopaville or whatever the hell you call it is like, you know, that. I think that would have made it just a tad bit better. But I also like not revealing Dennis Hopper until the very last minute. You absolutely have to. I can appreciate that as well. You know?
Yeah.
But you could still do like him standing on a street corner looking up and just the back of his head and be like, what is up with this dude's hair or head, whatever the hell is going on here? Like, what are we doing?
We have the baby being left.
Yes. With the meteorite piece.
A type of sequence I feel like I've seen in like a billion movies, but I'm like, I think it's just this one in my head.
Right.
Because it's this weird, like, eggshell contraption thing. And yeah, and this is all over the opening credits. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like anybody sitting down in the theater on Friday, opening weekend, is just like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Where is this going? And then very quickly, we're into the world of the Mario Brothers. We have yet to do a Leguizamo picture. We've talked about him quite a bit, though. As kids, I feel like as far as we were concerned, he was in the same echelon of like Tom Cruise or something.
Oh no, he was like a Jim Carrey or
from a comedic standpoint,
yes.
But also I remember thinking like, but he's like an actor, like he can do whatever.
No, John Leguizamo killed Lee Strasberg. His acting was so beautiful. Lee Strasberg died while working with him. He says it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the story. Yeah, I don't know. He's been on several things recently, and the Mario question does get brought up. And he does talk about fondly about like drinking profusely with Bob Hoskins and how like, you know, the whole accident with his hand and he went into this Cockney tirade and all that. I'm like, oh, shit.
I did not do much research into like the casting decisions, etc. But the instinct to cast Bob Hoskins as Mario,
right? Luigi.
I don't know
Luigi Mario.
I don't know what genius gifted us with that decision. But it just works for me, baby.
Who else? Think of anyone else in that time that you would want. The only other person that I would say...
Can of Spain. You ran me down. Veronica and I rewound that scene. Mm-hmm. No joke. Like 7 times to try and figure out what the fuck is he saying. It's somewhere in your text messages. I sent you screen caps because... There are times when his Bob Hoskins reaching for the New York accent just gets a little out of control. But it's a beautiful thing to behold, and I am totally here for it. Do you want to talk about Samantha Mathis for like 20 minutes?
What else do I know about where else do I know Samantha Mathis from besides this movie? I was thinking about that the other day. Like I feel like she was everywhere, but I also can't think of another one.
Here's the OG for a lot of people. Okay. Not my generation because it's too early 90s and I didn't catch up with it till way late. Pump Up the Volume, first of all.
Yeah.
Broken Arrow, a little more high profile.
That's what I'm thinking of.
With Christian Slater once again. I want to say they were
involved at some point.
I feel like they had to be.
I feel like everybody dated Christian Slater. And then they moved on.
Why wouldn't you?
Why would you not? Yeah, why would you not?
And then, I mean... the main thing is she's Courtney in American Psycho.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay. I knew there was something I was forgetting, and I just watched Broken Arrow, so I guess that just kind of slipped my mind. Like, oh, yeah, I just saw her in that. But that makes... Yeah, okay. Yes. I forgot about American Psycho.
She's great.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's an odd role.
It is.
Being a half... She's half dinosaur, right? Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But just like...
I mean, like she's birthed from an egg, but I guess because she stayed here...
Yeah.
And...
Let's not... You know what? Let's try and not get sucked into the logicals of this movie. Because
Fair
I think
enough.
they're innumerable and, you know, we could be here all day. But she's working the dig site. She's got to deal with the crooked... Excuse me. Go ahead.
Hey, the name's Mario. I'm your main man. You ram a dam. You can't spam.
You main man. You ram a dam. You can't spam.
Excuse me. Will you hit me again? I never have seen such fluidity. The way your knuckles crunched as you smashed them into my face. Dance with me. I'll hit you all you like. She is credited as Bertha.
Yeah, Big Bertha.
Big Bertha. I love it.
She, that was an experience.
That
for
was.
me as a child.
Because
I'll be honest
oddly,
with you. I didn't know how I did not know. She made me feel a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. Yes.
It just, what a perfect pairing. Because I feel like there's this weird, like, maybe it doesn't happen in movies, but I see it in real life where there are these kind of like New York greaseball guys with mustaches, and they are always with beautiful, like, big black women.
Voluptuous black women.
Yes, and it makes me smile. I'm just like, yeah, you get it. You know what I'm talking about.
Mario and Bertha.
Go Mario.
Okay. So, Daisy, she's working the site. She's an archaeologist by
She's a
paleontologist. A what?
She's a student.
She's an entomologist of some kind.
Yeah,
she's
paleontologist.
running the dig site,
But she's university student.
they found these dinosaur bones in
Yes.
New York. All right,
The
and
dinosaurs in New York?
the Scapellis.
Take it easy, Luigi. There were Dodgers here too.
She's taking pot shots at the Dodgers. I love it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The Scapellis are, giving her a hard time. They might come down to the site and cause some trouble. They do, in fact, send some goons down, cause some trouble. This happens later, excuse me.
They go to dinner. She explains
when
she's a
did they meet
vegetarian.
at the phone, though?
She's basically walking up to use the payphone to be
She's
like,
trying to
we
make
need
a
to get some
call to get
security.
security down there.
Mario and
Yes.
Luigi have already been like snubbed by Scapelli, which apparently there's a deleted scene where they like confront the guys at the store like, hey, what the hell?
We have this meet cute between
Yes.
the two of them. It works, whatever. Anyways, they go to dinner later. We get a little bit of her bizarre backstory.
I heard your name's Daisy. It's a very beautiful name. Not like I hang out in flower shops and nothing. Like he has to be like
immediately undercuts himself.
Yes, it's like, hey, I'm sensitive, but like I'm not that. Like
Not
I
like
like
flowers
you.
sensitive,
I
you know
like
what I'm
you.
saying.
Like,
You know.
you're cute. I would like to take you out. What my brother is saying is we have a van, and if you would like to, we can give you a ride. He's just like, okay. I love that he keeps talking about Papa and family, and it's like, this is it for you. Like, unless you go on this magical adventure and save the world from whatever the hell's going to happen if that rock goes back in the little place,
Yes.
you got a whole life of just being in shit, dealing with plumbing problems. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Things escalate.
there's two guys coming to kidnap her. One of them who was Fisher Stevens, which I fucking love.
And the other is Richard Edison.
Yes.
From, mainly, I know him from Spike Lee movies. but
Right.
Do the Right Thing. He's the one who's not John Turturro.
Yes, the other one. I know who you're talking about.
And Fisher Stevens, 90s icon. Is that fair enough to say? I don't know. I don't know if people feel that way. But between this and Hackers...
I mean, I think some people go short circuit, but
that's 80s, but
Yeah.
most people probably want to forget that one. I think he wants to forget that one.
Probably,
at this point.
yeah.
Probably wants to. I wonder if it's on the old resume. I wonder. Does he have a resume? Or is he
He's Fisher
just-
Stevens.
He's just getting the call.
He gets
I
the
feel
call
like.
regardless.
Yeah, I don't know.
Listen, if there's anybody that needs to have that New York accent, that weird like in his voice with the hair or like and just that beautiful complexion, you call Fisher Stevens first, and if he doesn't answer, you move on. But you leave him a message. Hey, I'm moving on, but call me back if you're interested. Yes. That's just how it goes.
Yes. So these two bumbling idiots, Iggy and Spike,
The Super Koopa
Cousins. I demand the secret. Hashtag release the Super Koopa Cousins.
I just love that like they established that where they live and where Scapelli is, or where their job is a bit of a ways away, and then that the dig site is further than that. But when they're like, "What do we do?" He's like, "I know," and he's like, his instinct is, "I know what to do to fix this." She's like, "You're a plumber, right?" He's like, I know exactly what to do." Smash cut. Mario Scapelli's flooding the site, and he's in his underwear. Noah, he's in a white t-shirt and boxers.
They run all the way back.
How do they? Yeah, they get all. Well, no, they take the truck or whatever. No, he took the van home. You're right. They run all the way.
Excuse me. This is what I mean by 110% committed. He gets that hero shot. He straps on that belt.
Strap on you.
Strap on your belt, kid.
We're going in.
Going in. And you're just like, dude, he's in it.
Yeah.
The gravitas is there.
Oskin spent 3 weeks
I am
being
ready
a plumber.
to go on this adventure. Did he seriously?
No, I have no idea. I'm not going to sully that man's
in my
reputation.
research. He fucking seriously. He went and worked with New York plumbers for 3 weeks.
He might have done a few ride alongs. You never know.
Straight up method, dude.
Yeah.
Why do you think he was blasted the whole time? That's what Mario is. That's what the star power is. That's the joy juice, baby. That's how he becomes invincible.
Exactly.
Runs real fast. Mm-hmm. They don't really do the star in this movie, do they?
They don't. They got really the bomb, they got the fungus, they got the mushroom, you know.
They got some approximations. Anyways, before you know it, everybody goes through a portal. I gotta be honest. I thought this was gonna look like dog shit. I thought that there's no way this transition sequence
of course
ages
not.
well. It looks okay.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good. I saw there's a 4K restoration of this movie available now.
What?
Yeah, we obviously have like a shitty DVD, but there's a 4K out there somewhere. Somebody did it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you're feeling generous, the email is thearkofe@gmail.com. Go ahead and email us for our deets, and you can just send it to us on Amazon. We appreciate it. Thanks.
I second that.
Yeah. You should just put a wish list up. Like, hey, if you're feeling fancy, you know, you don't want to donate to Patreon or anything, just, you know, here you go. Yeah, I was
Before
thoroughly.
You know it, we're into the magical mushroom game.
I love that this can't be Manhattan. I mean, I lived in Brooklyn for 30 years. I don't come uptown a lot. I don't know what's going on. I love it.
In this montage, when they first get in there, there's a random person. They're just seeing all this chaos. It's like, this looks like fucking Mad Max. Do they say? I thought they made a Mad Max reference at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm losing it, but they're looking around. They're just kind of soaking it all in, right? Somebody is on a bike, and to like illustrate the chaos of like what this city is, he's on a bike and he just like is barreling really fast, straight to a railing, flies over. That's it. Like just with no context whatsoever. He's not running from anything.
Nope.
He just like
he's that crazy.
Yeah.
You boys have a gun? You better get one.
Oh my god, dude, that scared me. When I was a kid.
Koopa
I was
coins.
like, oh my god, this sweet old lady. What happened?
Yeah. Worse, not as bad.
Early exposure. This combined with Home Alone.
I was going to say, not as bad as Home Alone.
Much better in here, kid.
Yeah.
Combined with that, whoa, baby.
Yeah.
I thought New York was terrifying as a child.
No,
like,
in the 90s, New York was terrifying.
Yes.
We aren't that far away from like porn shops and
dude, I hadn't even discovered the 70s cinema yet. I was just basing this on the depictions of the early 90s kids films. Again, children's films where they're like, we're fucking New York.
What's that? It's the city. Don't ever go over there.
Yes. Yeah. They get Toad gets arrested for
singing an anti-Koopa song.
Love it, dude.
Yes.
Love it. And they're defending this guy because they're our heroes. They're good guys. They're like, hey,
you can't arrest a man for singing a song. What is this?
Yeah.
I love whenever Bob Hoskins gets worked up into a frenzy about something. It's probably my favorite.
That's great.
The whole like their names, Mario, Luigi, Mario, going through the police thing, or they get the guns pointed at them. It's like sniper rifles, and they take their photos and
they
shit.
think they're about to be killed. It's so funny. Again, all these bits work for me. They're in the jail cell. And they have this little interplay with Toad, which Toad's MVP.
Yes.
But we'll get to the secret weapon of this movie, and I think you might agree with me.
Okay.
The stealth, best performance in the movie, the character that has stuck with me since childhood. Maybe we'll just talk about it right now, dude. Fucking Fiona Shaw.
Oh, yeah. And see, that's the thing. If you're going to this and you're a Mario fan, you're like, well, wait, what is this woman supposed to be? Is she?
That's what I'm saying. They put this woman. Put this weird, jealous, jilted lover subplot
/ Velociraptor.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they put that on her and Koopa's relationship. Does not need to be in here in this movie, but again, stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of, I gotta be honest, we'll just put it on the table. A lot of weird sexual energy in this movie, considering it's ostensibly for kids.
Like with her being in the mud, they're being in a mud bath.
The mud bath.
Yes.
The crystal, her cleavage.
Yes.
Bertha's over here with Mario. I'm like, she's
you know that
pretty
all
interesting as well.
in the club
you got
scene?
Samantha Mathis in the middle of it, and I don't know what to do with myself, frankly, as a child. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Luckily, you didn't know what that was. Thank God.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if that's how you figured out what masturbating was? From Mario Brothers.
Would have been weird.
Would have been weird. Did you know that all the people in the club scene they're all strippers?
Did not know that.
was almost
authenticity, I suppose.
No, it was almost said they hired all strippers to come in there, and they were just not having it because they kept wanting to like dance and take clothes off, and they were like, he was like, me and the crew, like no one in the crew cared, but we're like, guys, this is a PG-13 movie, like you gotta keep. That's why if you look in the background, there's a lot of like scantily clad women. Yeah. They're all strippers from like the city that they hired to come be in this club scene.
I don't know what this. Something about this 90s art direction and like the costume choices in general. This, I don't know, dude. It scratches an itch of some kind, and I'm like, what other things have this like aesthetic that I'm thinking of? And this is gonna sound weird, but like the way people are dressed at like the party in Blank Check that he throws at the end.
Yes.
Some of the wild dresses on like the partygoers, and even like his white suit with crazy pattern that he's wearing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this just very like, we're out of the 80s.
But we're not done with it yet. It's a hangover.
We know we like color.
We like Tommy Hilfiger. We like Hugo Boss. We
just like a lot of it, right? Yeah. Like
mm-hmm.
that's the instinct.
Yeah.
But then visually, the movie is very not drab, but dark.
It's subterranean.
Dark. It is subterranean.
Imagine getting that art direction.
That Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles energy, the
right.
first one.
Right. Half the movie feel like keep them in darkness because we don't know if the animatronics are going to work.
If the effects are going to work.
Right.
And again, we're about to get into the transformation scene. I guess we need to talk about the introduction of Hopper, though.
Right.
If we're kind of going semi-chronologically.
Right.
They do this weird fake out where it's like, well, we know he's the bad guy.
Right.
We know why he's there.
Exactly.
But they keep this ruse up for all of like a 2-minute scene.
Which I don't understand because
for him to reveal.
There's shots of like Koopa all around the city they're looking at to when they see him, they don't think like, you're the guy, you're this Koopa guy.
Like what?
Yeah. You don't get a lawyer in
gotta be honest, watching a lot of Hopper recently.
Dino Hatton?
Been on a nice little kick. Did Speed recently. And just scrolled through recently and saw that Waterworld is leaving Netflix soon.
Gotta watch it.
And I was like, I think that needs to be done. But Veronica's like looking at the picture, which the image on Netflix right now is him with the eye patch and the like, baked sun, bald head and everything. And she's like, is that mommy? I was like, yep, that's him. That's him again. She's like, is he a bad guy in it? I was like, yeah. And she was like, is he crazy as hell? And I was like, yep. And she was like, does he ever play anybody normal? I was like, he did at one point back in the day. It was like his 90s though. No, don't bet on it.
Nope.
You're hiring for the crazy Hopper energy.
Right.
You're hiring for third act of Apocalypse Now. You're not hiring for Hoosiers.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Which is, and like, I feel like in the early 90s, Walken is looking at him like, huh, okay. And then by the end of the 90s, it's like, Christopher Walken's like, I see what he's doing there. He's got that wild, crazy, big dick energy. I'm doing this. And then you get Christopher Walken just being, not wild and crazy like that, but just being himself. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't look at Dennis Hopper from any other performance in Super Mario Brothers, but I know like, well, that's just Dennis Hopper being Dennis Hopper. He read this thing and was like, my kid's got to eat. Sure, I'll do it. Because like, I don't know if you saw in your research either. He explained that his kid was like, why did you played a pretty bad guy in that movie? Like, why did you even do the Super Mario Brothers movie? He's like, well, I did this so you could have shoes. And this kid was like, I don't need shoes that much. Like, it's okay. I don't need them that much, man.
Right.
Why'd you do this? But again, it's one of those things that if that's the mindset, and he says like, I was hired for 7 weeks. I was down there 16 weeks. It was a mess. It was over budget. If that's where you're at, it does not show in the final product. You really make me feel like you live this.
They don't feel like they were miserable. They don't feel like they were checked out. Nobody does in the cast.
But again, that's what booze does to you.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, dude. Is I would love to. This is maybe one of those sets where it's like, dude, if you could be a fly on the wall, maybe that's the one to pick. Because I'm just so curious, like, are we seeing like the 97th take of like a crazy like dictatorial director who's just like, do it until it's perfect?
It's a husband and wife duo, and they never talk to each other.
Yes, that yeah.
Again, I uncovered an old Entertainment Tonight clip where Bob Hoskins was like,
were they were the Max Headroom people? Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah.
That's what their prior credits.
I think so. But the ET clip I looked up on YouTube was basically Bob Hoskins being like, I basically was like it did my own stunts. Like I kind of talked myself into this and into that, and I wound up doing everything on set because I wanted to be like, I wanted to do it, and I shouldn't have. I got really banged up. They're like, he's like, oh yeah, he hurt his hand. He's like, I'm from the streets, but like I can't do what he does. He's doing backflips, all the stuff. I never had to do backflips before. I just, but I really, Bob Hoskins is amazing. Like just watch a baby Leguizamo with just a baby little mustache. It was great,
dude. They escape.
They got
there's the de-evolve chamber sequence and everything, where
they turn Toad into a toad.
Yes,
essentially.
And as soon as he popped up, Veronica was like, "Oh, I remember now." She was like, "This is the best part of the movie." Like this guy, she's like, "Honestly, you could leave all that other stuff." She was like, "That guy is so cute." Like that version of Toad, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, I forgot he gets the harmonica later on." Like, dude,
yeah.
So awesome. That's one of the things that but that should not work for a kid. This is giant, towering, scaly-headed dinosaur man with a weird, crazy, smile and teeth. But somehow I was like, he's cute as hell. He's a fun guy. I want to hang out with him.
He's got a harmonica.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Look at him giving Daisy food. Like he brings her the nice food.
Very interesting choice to make them enormously tall with tiny heads.
Of course, because they're like big-headed mushrooms with tiny feet in the video game. And he's not going to stomp on them. They can't do that.
Right.
So what's more intimidating? They used to be dinosaurs. Now they're humans. We de-evolve them back to dinosaurs. They'll just be the Goombas. That's that.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, makes as much sense as if you were like, and Koopa, who should be Bowser, waves his magic wand and creates all of these things.
Right. I love the escape. I love the
they get out. Somehow they end up in the desert. But we haven't really talked about the fungus. Trust the fungus.
Trust the fungus. Yes.
# trust the fungus.
Right.
It's helping him out the whole time. Secretly, didn't realize this until this watch. Fucking Lance Henriksen.
Yeah,
you didn't. Yes, I never.
He's the king.
Did not know he was the king.
Yeah.
Until I watched it this time, and I was doing my very short comb through research.
You would think that if this had the backing of Nintendo, they would have called Koopa Bowser, and they would have just made Lance Henriksen King Koopa, the good guy.
Right.
Because I don't remember. I don't remember there being a ton of text. He was referred to as Bowser in Super Mario Brothers, right? Or was it Koopa?
I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me on any of this.
I have no idea.
We owned a SNES, and we've owned a Cube.
SNES, Cube, and a Wii. And
that's pretty much
Switch.
where you have a Switch.
And a 64, obviously, yeah.
Oh, of course, a 64.
Yeah.
How dare I? I mean, as much as I love the old school Marios, because we had the collection.
Oh, yeah. Super Mario All-Stars, yeah.
By far, 64 was the thing I spent the most time
with.
Of
course.
I mean, that was incredible.
Of course.
Didn't they have a remake of it out now, or some?
I think so.
Some updated version. I don't know. I kind of want to get a Switch just to play a Mario game because it's been so long.
It's fun,
and they're perfection. They're just pixel perfect.
Mm-hmm. And I think they've all been updated on their Nintendo has that store you can just download whatever from, emulate or whatever.
Maybe I'll get a Switch because that PS5's looking
elusive,
very elusive. Further away. Yeah. Anyways, the escape's fun. There's some castle hijinks. There's the reveal of they've been kidnapping all these women, which has been set up earlier. Daisy's one of them. They've been trying to.
It's all just because it's just because Spike and Iggy are just dumb.
Right, because they can't find the ring.
Yeah, they just can't find them.
Yes.
And instead of because here's the thing, if you just you're not her, okay. If you just shove her back through the portal and this happened, no one's gonna believe you.
Right.
But if you leave them there in this universe, eventually it's going to become enough of a problem that people are going to be like, all right, we need to figure out what's going on. Right. And if it wasn't for, these two plumbers, going above and beyond the Call of Duty, all they had to do was just come down there and just, turn back that wrench. I love when he's asking him for tools. Hand. He pulls him up. And then, they get hit over the head by Iggy and Spike and Daisy's, they wake up and Daisy's long gone. But if it wasn't for the intervention of those two, who knows how many women would have wound up in this alternate dimension? To the point that we do forget to tell you, they do kidnap Mario's girlfriend.
Of course.
So they do.
we gotta have double stakes.
Well, that, but also then you get the whole like you gotta storm the castle and like rescue the princess.
Exactly.
But they both get princesses. He just gets Daniela his girl back.
Yeah,
and
because
Luigi gets
that. I
Peach.
assume was the other complaint at the time, which is just like, why is Luigi like the young strapping like hero who gets a love interest, and Mario's like his older brother, and it's like, who gives a shit?
Right.
Like, were you so tied to the continuity of Princess Peach and like all of this
Yes.
stuff? I'm just like, guys, what are we talking about at this point when this movie was made?
Exactly.
Like, I just.
Where are you? What are you doing? What are you thinking?
Yes.
Like, and that's the thing.
But I get at the and that's my thing is like, from an outsider perspective, if I came in being like skeptical of video game movies, I feel like as a critic, I probably would have been impressed by the sheer creativity of it. What a weird fucking movie. What a weird concept.
Yeah.
And like, it kind of hangs together and is fun. But I get also if you're like, you have this pre-programmed thing of like, video games, those are for kids. This is a kid's movie. And then you see this, you're just like, does not compute. What did they do here? It's automatically trash. It's bad. But think about how the amount of nostalgia that came out when we put this up as your pick. This was the runaway winner. Everybody voted for Super Mario Brothers. And some people even point out, they're like, it doesn't get talked about enough. And I think they meant it in a positive. It constantly gets brought up on bad movie podcasts.
Right.
And it's easy to have fun with like poking holes in all of this, but I think it's actually a super creative movie that manages to hang together, has a pretty coherent 3-act structure, it doesn't have any like grander themes in it other than the core that unites us on all of these nostalgic picks at some level. It's about brothers.
Yeah.
It's about fucking brothers working together.
Yeah.
And being there for each other. And
unlike the tropes of today, they never have a fallout. They never have a fight.
They never sleep with each other's wives.
Yeah, that too. But like, there's maybe like one scene where they're arguing a little bit, but they never get split up.
They don't even really have that in this movie.
No.
There's no.
They argue about what should we get the tunnel. Like they do the fake out with take the parkway. Perfect. What? It's like, I knew if I said the parkway, you choose the tunnel. You know. So like it's like Bob Hoskins being like,
good feeling about this.
Leguizamo. But it's Bob Hoskins being like, this is fucking bad shit. This is a bad shit Alice in Wonderland trip we're on. What are we doing here? And Leguizamo's like, dude, just go with it. The fungus is trying to help us. We get your girl. Like, they don't even know his girl's in there. It's like, we get Daisy. We get out of here.
They know they need the rock. They end up in the club. There's the whole Bertha sequence. We got the heel clicker boots.
Oh, yes.
Those are kind of like this is a power up. You guys can kind of fly.
Now you can jump like you're supposed to in this game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of works, guys.
Culminating.
Culminating.
If you want to argue, this is just a big commercial for the Super Nintendo Super Scope. Because that is all that is.
Oh, 100%.
The Super Scope that they come out with at the last little bit.
You, dude, I completely forgot that
de-evolution
they
guns
that into the third act of this movie.
Those are the de-evolution guns.
Yes.
And they hit that advanced. Yeah, they, so, and we forgot about like the, what is it? What is it? Is it Mario on the sliders at Luigi? Who takes them on the mattress and like they freeze the tunnel or whatever? They freeze the shit and then like they break them open. It's Mario. It's all of them on the thing, or is it just?
I think it's all of them.
I thought it was all of them are like either
or it's two separate matches. I forget.
I thought maybe, and it's bad because I literally just watched it like a week ago. I thought like Daisy and Leguizamo were somewhere else, and Mario went to go get Daniela, and like it's like they come in to save the day because like they burst through the grate with all the girls on there.
Yes.
He sticks the wrench in to fuck the Goombas up that are following them and whatnot. I mean, who wouldn't want to get up? If this movie was $100 million winner, I guarantee you, the giant frozen chute with a mattress is a ride somewhere. It has to be.
Yeah.
For
sure. And I thought that was so cool when I was a kid, for sure.
Of course.
They have the moment as well when it's... I love that they stop in the midst of, like, what seems like a climax that's ramping up, and it's like, we got a ticking clock sort of situation going here. I love that they're like, we're going to do it like Mario's.
Yes.
And I guess that apparently means in uniform.
Yeah.
So they go suit up.
In plumber uniforms that are just available for
that are
coveralls?
just sitting there. I'm like, who in this world
wears
is
this?
wearing this?
Yes, that's what I want to know.
But okay, I love that it's color coded for you guys. You kind of been wearing these colors all movie.
Yeah. I love that, like, when the Goombas are coming for him, Big Bertha's like, okay, like, I'll help you out, and, like, put the cartridge in. They do this, they do that, and then it's like...
Click your heels together. Oh, God.
It's like, this, you could...
The
this
fact
is
that you
a
go
Wizard
from
of
being, like, You
Oz...
see her kind of, like... She seems scary from afar initially, and she's kind
She
of...
throws that old woman over... Yes, that's how they meet her.
But yeah, so she seems super intimidating, but the transit... And, of course, she decks Mario. There's that whole sequence. But the transition to, like... But then they dance together, and, like...
He steals the
There's
rock
some romance, and you're like, is he going to end up leaving with her? Like, does he even care about his girl that he doesn't know is missing?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Which leads me to believe, even though he's a good stand-up guy, Mario, if Daniela wasn't there, what happens in this dimension stays in this dimension.
Possibly.
For
sure. Trust the fungus.
Trust the fungus. He would make sure that, if there's any pipes need cleaning, he'll handle
He'll
it.
take care of it.
Yes.
100%. I wondered if we were going to get one in before.
I had to.
I
had to.
So yeah, dude, they de-evolve, they fucking save the day.
Love those plumbers.
There's some great deliveries. There's the kind of stuff that you can't bottle where I'm just like, I don't know that this plays for everybody.
The fact
they're
that
just
Henriksen is a giant booger that like he comes up and out of whatever that backwards alien shit is. But the fungus is sentient enough to know they're plumbers. To like the first thing he says, like, "Oh my god, that was terrible." Love those plumbers. Like what? What? And I love the fact that they're instantly like scrubbing down the Koopa signs as they're all celebrating.
Yes,
it's amazing, dude. Like you cannot listen. I challenge anybody first to master time travel and then go back in time to 1990? It's 90 or 93. Yes. Go back to 1993
or 92.
92, yeah. Go back to 1992 when this gets pitched. Somehow, replace the directors and make a better first ever video game movie. Because this kicks it off. And not even 2 years later, we have one of the better ones that has stood up to me over the test of time with Mortal Kombat in 95. The next big one I can think of after that is going to be the Lara Croft series, which, for what they were, they're all right. And then you get into Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. And then you have a slew of, like, Yule Bowl, like, random, let's just make them...
Movies we would rather forget.
Far Cry, kind of Blood Rain, all this kind of stuff.
Don't exist.
Yeah. And then from then, though, I mean, you get to last year, which we talked about. You put out a Sonic the Hedgehog trailer, and the internet reacts, and they hate it. Mm-hmm. And for that studio to have the mindset of, all right, I hear you. Give me a minute. How do you like this? And for that movie to be what it was, I can only... You can't talk about Sonic the Hedgehog being a great movie that it was. For me, coming from Super Mario Brothers, Sonic is right there on the other side with Sega as their, like, main dude.
Right.
And for this to be that launching pad, I can't imagine what someone who is my age when I saw Super Mario Brothers watching Sonic and how much fun they get to have with that.
Right.
From just a good movie standpoint. Not to talk about like just all the things going on with it, what it could be, whatever. Just like you can't have video game movies like you have them now with something that is I would give Sonic, it would have been in my top 10 had I watched it, when I should have. Like, you can't do that now without having the Super Mario Brothers, the Mortal Kombats, the Tomb Raiders, the Resident Evils, and all the ones we won't talk about. So I don't know where you go from here in terms of, you were talking about what we would want to see, but
yeah, I guess.
Do you want to get into like favorites now? Oh, well, real quick, they save the day. They come back in. You think they're fine. They're talking about them on Miraculous World. They de-evolve Scapelli into a chimp. It's wild.
Yes.
And, essentially, everything's all good. And as much as Luigi's like, oh, it sucks, you're kind of leaving, going back to your own world. Not even, it could be probably like next weekend, she comes back in all like war-torn and like steam's coming off from behind her. She's got this vest. I was like, you got to come back with me. And they just kind of look at each other like, all right. And then it's the sequel we never got.
Yeah. It's that, dude, it's those John Carpenter endings that we
Yes,
love, dude.
it's
Just like,
perfect.
show me the next 10 minutes of this movie.
Yes.
Where's it going?
And dude, we're going to need to talk about something really specific. I'm sure it's been done in other movies. This is the first post-credit teaser that I can think of ever in a movie.
That's interesting.
I can think, there may be a better one somewhere earlier than this, but this, from my knowledge, I can't think of any other one where the credits have rolled.
Definitely look that up.
And
at
you
some
get...
point. But I think you might be onto something there.
Fisher Stevens, you get Iggy and Spike
Pitching
the
Super Koopa Cousins.
What would you call this? The Super Koopa Cousins. What I'm assuming is
the Nintendo board.
Right.
Yeah.
So not only is it meta,
Yes.
you honestly, if this movie was made now, being what we do with superhero movies and video game movies, that's where that's going. It's like, well, let's spin them off. Like we'll get like 2 good movies out of this, but let's put this in the back pocket for later. If we're gonna make the Mario universe, we got to have Spike and Iggy's own thing.
Yeah, we gotta have the adventures of Toad and Yoshi and everybody. We didn't even talk about Yoshi.
Yeah,
interesting choice, but
yeah,
they could have made him green. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they could.
That was a thought.
Maybe
make him green. I don't know.
Who knows?
Anyways, had a ton of fun with it. Glad everybody suggested that one. If you picked it because you were hoping we were gonna like shit talk it, sorry to
joke's
disappoint.
on you, motherfucker.
Yes, Super Mario Brothers, great, holds up as far as
Hell
we're
yes.
concerned. Total blast. But yes, so do you have a favorite video game movie that comes to mind? And then do you have a game that you want to see adapted?
My favorite video game movie that comes to mind, if I'm going to be honest, really, even though you have the Mary Sue in there, I really, really, really dig the second Resident Evil Apocalypse that digs into the RE3 Raccoon City, like ties those two in. I've always been kind of with the fact that and again, I can appreciate that it's trying to be its own franchise, its own thing, adjacent from the video games. I don't know how much of that is Capcom being like, hell no, you can't have the film rights to, Leon, Chris, and Jill, whatever. But I guess as they start making more and more money, Capcom's like, all right, well, for a small fee, you can have a Chris Redfield or whatever. And that franchise has a lot of like problems with it towards the back end. But coming off of a really successful first movie and Resident Evil being what it was, to, the second one, which is everything but amped up, all the promise that I get from the end of the first Resident Evil is there in Apocalypse. If I had to pick, that's probably my favorite video game movie that they've made thus far. I can't think of any other ones really. That just kind of hit me on that mark. And that has a lot to do with the fact that Resident Evil is my favorite franchise.
Right.
And this isn't my favorite pick. This isn't the pick by any means. But if I had my way, I would make them go back and make a true to form, sticking to the canon, Resident Evil with the Stars team, Chris, Jill, Barry, all that.
I heard an interesting take, and I'll shout this out, but they were it was a Mortal Kombat review episode, so on one of the Ringer podcasts, and they were talking about the worst video game movies, and they, tried to suggest good ones, etc. But they got into talking about the Resident Evil movie franchise, and how, while it's not like a strict adaptation of the lore of those games, tonally, it is... Their argument was essentially like Paul W.S. Anderson is hitting the tone of the cutscenes of a Resident Evil game, which are ridiculous and over the top and a little campy.
4, 5, and 6, yes.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that because at this point...
The thing they pointed out was they were like, no, think about the pre-roll footage of the original game, the intro video, and how
everybody live action,
cheesy, that is. They're like, that's essentially the tone of those movies,
right? Blown
up over time. And I was like, well, that's actually a weird thing of thinking about. Like, they've informed each other
to the point that you have a laser room in the games now, which makes sense. And to me, my only complaint would be keep everybody from that franchise out of your movies.
Right.
Just take, again, I can't say that honestly and like Apocalypse, because there are plenty of characters from Jill to Carlos to the Nemesis, all that. Like, you know, that's great. But moving forward from Raccoon City, if you're going to go with like, you know, Alice has these crazy mind powers, don't give me anybody else from the games. Just make everybody their own thing. Like when Lyndon Ashby showed up as a dude in there, I'm like, he's not in any of these games, but I buy it. Yeah, cool. He can be in it. Cool. I don't care. Oh, it's gone worldwide now. They're not like just in cities. It's like the whole world is fucking crazy now. All right, cool. It's post-apocalyptic zombie now. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Just don't bring in anybody else from this storied canon of video games and run all over the place. Go for it. But if I had to make one, I would make
That was your pick, but okay.
No.
Please
If
go
I
ahead.
could make one right now, carte blanche with the budget, do whatever I want, I am making a Tenchu stealth assassin video game movie.
I think that's an excellent choice.
Just, I have to. I don't know. Obviously, I get a really, really, really talented unknown.
I mean, you're more likely to see a Ghost of Tsushima
Right.
movie at this point, just for cultural mindshare. I don't know if Tenchu has enough name recognition.
It doesn't.
to get a straight adaptation.
No,
of
it
that.
doesn't. And I mean, that pretty much, Tenchu's gone the way of, what is it? The one that just came out that's Dark Souls like. Sekiro?
Sekiro?
Yeah. Like that team from Tenchu made that one, and then some of them obviously made Ghost of Tsushima, which has all the elements of Tenchu, and I love, but it's that core story of an orphan samurai with like a code to his master, you know, the female samurai who like, you know, doesn't know her place in society, but is also like, this is just what she kills. And that game, playing both a male and female campaign, it's weird that games don't have this anymore. It's like you had a male-female campaign on Tenchu and Resident Evil, and both of the events of those storylines informed the other in separate ways. It made it worth playing through twice. You know, to the point that, like, at the end, if you're playing her, okay, well, you fought all this time and you saved the girl.
Nobody's really done it in film form yet. There's episodes of television that do
Right.
it, but it's like, it would be really cool to, like, see a Resident Evil 2 comes to mind, but literally, like, hey, first movie, here's Claire, like, you know, or Jill. No, Claire in the
Claire's
second one, Jill in the first one.
Right.
Yes. And then that's the whole movie played end to end. Mm-hmm. And simultaneously you're shooting the Leon version.
Right.
And that comes out 6 months later.
Yeah.
And then on DVD, you pair them together, or you do an ultimate cut that interweaves the two stories, and you got a third bite at the apple.
Right.
I think it could be really cool.
I mean, didn't we? I mean, we've already, and the thing is, we've already come to the point where we can do something like Bandersnatch,
And
where you can pick and
to be
choose.
fair, they are rebooting Resident Evil as we speak. You are aware of this.
The movie franchise there?
Yes.
And
it is meant to be much more faithful, from what I understand.
and
to
nobody from the
tone of
previous stuff is attached to it.
from everything I have seen, no.
Okay, good.
It is, they're giving it another go.
You know, and you know what? You don't even have to make more movies, dude. You can make Resident Evil the events of the first thing, a 6, 7, 8 long miniseries. They have tons of animated movies out already. I don't need you to give me more movies. You could break it down.
I think there's a way to take 4 as inspiration
Yeah.
and not do a straight adaptation. Not even that it has to be Leon. Mm-hmm. But that concept of just like dude in a foreign country sent on a like kind of a classic action movie task of like, it's the president's daughter, right?
Yes, yeah.
I got to get the president's daughter back. And you don't even have to make it that high stakes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like those sort of things are less and less believable.
Just
in
make
the
it
modern
make
era,
it the
but-
company you work for, and you don't know the company name. Oh, the company happens to be Umbrella Incorporated.
Sure.
Boom.
But that whole, just like arriving in that village, there's something up with the townsfolk. Okay, I really don't know what's going on here. And then stumbling into the deeper like lore of Salazar and like all of that
Yes.
stuff. I feel like, but it doesn't even have to be connected to the video game. I'm just saying, I think that would be a cool action horror movie.
Right.
If just done with that plot line essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to call it Resident Evil.
You call it Biohazard for all I care.
Yeah, call it, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, Tenchu, I would get a really solid, like, somebody who's produced, like, beautiful, like, art house style stuff, because I would want to incorporate, like, just the imagery I remember from that game, and, like, I mean, no one's gone back and touched it up. It's kind of lost to time, but it is, like, one of my favorite games of all time. I played that over and over that summer we spent in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And, like, I watched The Professional a lot as I was playing that, so I was in this weird, like, I could totally be an assassin.
Right.
For like a whole summer. And then I was like, I know I can't do that. Like, it's not going to happen. I can't speak French. I've never even shot a gun. What am I going to do?
And you're like, and you eventually discover that like most actual assassins and hitmen look like the guy who Leon was killing in the opening of The Professional,
yes.
not like genre.
Richard, the guy that Shannon plays, Richard
Yes,
Kuklinski.
they look like that.
They look like
the
him.
Iceman.
Yes,
that's what they look like.
Or what's his face from Black Mass?
Yeah.
He's in the movie, your favorite movie, this last year.
My favorite. What?
Plemons.
Oh,
like,
yes.
They look like Jesse Plemons from Black Mask. That's what they look
Or
like.
from Breaking Bad for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There's no beauty.
Movie-wise, like, just sheer quality, I think I gotta go Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Like, stands as just a solid horror movie. I wasn't crazy about the sequel, but it's honestly, like, it's still one of the better video game adaptations.
Looking, yes.
Yes.
I don't like that they jumble all the bits and pieces of the story from 1, 2, and 3, but looking, and the only problem I have with Silent Hill is Pyramid Head. I just don't.
What about him?
I don't think you need to put him in the movie because it has nothing to do with that story.
I know, but it's iconic to the, and I think that first one was made with a thing that we talked about. The most recent Mortal Kombat benefited from was confidence in, like, we're gonna get to do more of these. I feel like that first Silent Hill movie is very kitchen sink, and like we want to get as much iconography from the games smushed in here as possible,
right?
Because we may not get to do it again. It has that energy to it. So yeah, I agree that the Pyramid Head angle doesn't fully like make sense, but it's also like if it hadn't been in there, that's some of the some of the creepiest imagery. That's some of what like is effective scare wise in that movie.
And we're together and united on this. That like we're saying this, but we ultimately agree that like Double Dragon is the best video game movie ever made. Right?
I totally messed up. My joke was I was going to straight face tell you that Max Payne is actually my favorite, and I was going to be completely joking because what you guys had a layup. To just you had a perfect alley-oop to just slam dunk a movie, and you shit the bed completely.
Yes.
What a terrible adaptation.
Yes.
You could have done a shot-for-shot
remake
adaptation of that video game in the tone and style of it. That's the other thing is I was like...
You could have been Sin City before Sin City was Sin City.
You're just a few years away from Sin City. You couldn't have looked to that for inspiration? Like,
oh, yeah, it is after that. Yeah.
Just complete missed opportunity. Terrible casting. Marky Mark was not on his best day. And to be frank, I'm sorry, Mila Kunis does not make sense as Mona Sachs. It just didn't work.
Not at all.
I love Mila Kunis. Did not work in that movie.
We also agree that Street Fighter is one of the best as well, right?
Yeah.
Raul Julia's last performance?
Street Fighter is definitely another nostalgia soft spot, but that is one that I can also look at and be like, this is shit. But it is enjoyable shit. Yes. That is a bad movie, though. That is
it's fucking terrible.
Very bad movie. Compared to Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat, it looks like Citizen Kane compared to Street Fighter, the movie.
Well, I think Mortal Kombat took a lot of inspiration from, like, God, that was shit, because Mortal Kombat's a year after it.
So it goes Mario Brothers, Street Fighter, Combat? Mm-hmm. Interesting. I thought Combat beat them to the punch, but...
No. I see.
All
what
right,
you did
we can't
there.
do better than that.
That's a great way to end it. Well, what video game would you want to make into a movie?
This is so juvenile, but and it's like
The Getaway.
I don't know why I want to like keep him in this like box that I've formed for him in my head, but I'm like, but dude, you like play into the image every time that you announce a new project. I'm like, this is how I see you, and this is what I want you to do. But it's very simple. I just want Hotline Miami, the movie, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn.
Okay.
tell the exact same story as those games. Do it. Like, literally tell it verbatim. The plot that is in those games is the most surreal, violent, crazy, action-packed, fantastic game I've ever played. I love both of those. But you do the first one outright, it's probably going to get an NC-17, I would imagine. But, you know, it's going to happen. You release the unrated cut on home video. And then you have a perfect setup for 2, which goes... Did you play through both of those?
No.
They were... The gameplay itself, I feel like you would eventually get hooked on and you'd get sucked into it. Even though, from a gameplay perspective, it's really not for you.
It's like a top-down?
It's
like
a top-down...
Like a GTA 2, 1,
yes,
2?
But on crack cocaine. It is, like, so fast-paced, it's one-hit kills. If you get shot, you're dead. And it's a Twitch shooter, essentially, but in top-down format. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those, like, you will get addicted to trying to get, like, a high score. And it's one of those, the reset is, like, immediate. So it's like, if you get killed, you can jump back immediately. The best soundtrack to any video game, period. You will absolutely love it. And just from a story perspective, dude, it's like, people at the time, people were like, this is like if David Lynch directed Drive.
Okay.
So, that's why I say get NWR to direct it, obviously. It's totally in his wheelhouse. But yeah, dude, you have got to play those games. I don't know why I haven't yelled at you about them for forever. You would absolutely love them. They're the first one in particular is the most 80s thing, like, ever. But again, 80s mixed with the aesthetic of, like, Drive and a fucked up David Lynch nightmare version of, like, humanity. It's the best. Those are my favorite games in recent memory, 1 and 2. With, like, Metal Gear 5 up there as well. But that's probably my favorite game of all time. Speaking of which, I hope that movie is good.
I hope it is.
Really hope that movie is good.
I do too.
And everything I've heard from the director, he's like, Americanizing this, quote unquote, blockbusterizing this would be pointless. He was like, Kojima's a genius. I want to bring that level of sincere, committed weirdness.
Yes.
That this franchise has always had. I want to bring that into a mega budget action thriller for American audiences. I want to bring in that thing that probably holds a lot of people back from fully engaging with some of his games and, like, finishing Death Stranding, for instance, and stuff like that. But they seem like their heads are in the right place. I think Oscar Isaac is a fantastic choice for Snake. Oh, yeah. I still think he should have been Nathan Drake before he was Snake, but, you know, whatever. Tom Holland, I guess. I'm reserving judgment. I have semi-high hopes for that one. Comes out later this year, if I'm not mistaken.
The
Uncharted movie with Tom Holland.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
As young Nathan Drake. I don't know why he needs to be young. I don't know why we're starting from there.
Well, I
am glad it's not Marky Mark, because that was originally who it was supposed to be.
Games are so cinematic now that you have to do something to, like, distance yourself from them. So making it younger would play into, if you give me a story as a younger Nathan Drake, then I can go play these games and be like, connective tissue.
I mean, there is young Nate in the games. There's flashback sequences in there. So it's, I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do with it. I think it has the highest chance to be really solid, but I also am like, and they're doing the HBO version of The Last of Us. I personally, why the fuck do you want to adapt the best storytellers in the medium? Like, I think that's inarguable personally, and you can debate me with, like, RPGs or something else you want to throw at me, but I think Naughty Dog are the best cinematic storytellers in video games right now. To the point where I was like, what's so special about The Last of Us was, like, that game ended on a note that, to me, you could never do in a movie or on television. They just would not let you do that.
Right.
And it does it, and it has the balls to do it, and it ends on, I'm not even talking about, like, the climax. I'm talking about literally the last seconds of that game is just a tone and a moment you would never be able to have as the end point in any other medium.
Right.
And that's why it's so powerful. And the idea of trying to adapt the sincerity and the gravitas of that game, I would be scared to attempt to do it. There's also a huge portion of the population that does not play any of this shit.
Right. And well, see, that's my thing is like, if we're going to get to the point where like we are, glitching the matrix and we can jack into a whatever game in the future, whatever, this is going to be the blending of the medium. You're going to have to figure out a way to have people who are like, well, those are you playing with your, no, I don't, a controller, whatever, in order to get to, the Back to the Future we wanted. Would you ever play that with your hands? It's like a baby's toy. Like in order to get to that, we're going to
fuck up, Frodo. My base, dude.
What?
It's Elijah Wood.
That is Frodo.
It's like a baby's toy.
Yeah, forget about that.
I don't know if he has the line or the other kid has the line.
Yeah.
But he's in the scene.
Yeah. But like in order to get there, you're going to have to be able to show, because you're saying I wouldn't want to attempt it. If that is what it is, if I get the chance to do that, I'm going balls to the wall. I'm trying to make it stick because there's an off chance that it does work. And they do let you do that. And you say, no, you hired me to adapt this game. This is what is in this game. Watch it. You can see all the clips on YouTube. Watch how it ends. You don't have the investment because you haven't played it. But guess what? You watch what I've given you, and you will have the closest thing to having an investment, having not sat down and played this thing all the way through. Mm-hmm. And if I can deliver on that, then guess what? Any other kind of game that's on that level, people will realize, hey, okay, there is an interactive element to this, to caring, but these games are already so cinematic, they kind of write themselves.
To the point where I'm like, why is the instinct to adapt the ones that are already trying to be movies, essentially?
Right.
Why,
because life imitates art, Noah.
But I understand also it's like Last of Us 2 is one of the most profitable games and one of the biggest games on the PS4. It makes sense to that franchise has been a critical darling in a way that video games have constantly been trying to break through to that other level or be accepted or whatever that even means by the world at large or movies or whatever mediums we want to talk about.
Here's my thing. The thing that I don't understand, if you want to do that and you're trying to adapt these things, there's a whole series that lends itself to that that's perfect. It's Call of Duty. You literally could take it.
They've been struggling to do an adaptation of for a decade now.
Exactly. You literally pull it out of first. You know what? Hardcore Henry it. Make it all first person if you have to. But you put me in the seat of a guy going through those missions, and you tell a pretty neat. I mean, my whole thing that why I loved Modern Warfare was online. Just before I even played online video games, was the story behind here's this guy who when you get double crossed by the general, and it's he's double crossing you because 4 years ago in the first game there was a nuke that got dropped on his own men in the desert. Well, I played that part of that story.
Right. He's
double crossing you to make it look like it's your unit that's fucking up, and you're like, oh my god, crazy shit, right? To the point that the third one is okay, we've been fully invaded by people, and it's like Wolverines. We gotta fight back on our own soil. You telling me that you couldn't make a movie out of that in 120 minutes of a story that spans like that with one good? You got Ryan Reynolds, you got Krasinski, you got Pratt. You couldn't do that in either a first-person formula or just stuck with him most of the thing. Do a 1917 modern day.
Person. Yeah.
No. 1917, just like that. Follow the one dude through this one specific turning point battle of an overall war. If you want to take a cut, you cut to a cutscene, flashback, whatever, of how we got to where we're at, and then you end the movie. And that's that. If the mission's successful, they win the day. If it's not, we don't know. And hey, did he get there in time or did he not? And then you're done. And if you want to know, you got to come back for a sequel. It's that simple.
So get on it, studio people. Okay. I think we can table that. We definitely will have more video game movies to discuss in the
Right.
future, but that was a review of Super Mario Brothers.
Yes.
So that means it's time to take a listen to the trailer for Michael Clayton.
Michael, thank God. Look, I got a situation.
Arthur Edens just stripped down naked in a deposition room in Milwaukee.
You are the senior litigating partner of one of the largest, most respected law firms in the world. You are a legend.
I'm an accomplice.
You are a manic depressive.
I am Shiva, the god of death.
I'm Michael Clayton.
You're late. This is a $3 billion class action lawsuit. The architect of our defense has been arrested for running naked through a parking lot.
He's building a case against you, North.
Nobody's gonna let him do that.
Let him? Who the hell's gonna stop him?
I spent 12% of my life defending the reputation of a deadly weed killer.
Arthur.
No, wait.
They killed Michael.
You North needs to know he's under control. They've been shook up. They need to be reassured.
What are you telling me?
That I'm counting on you?
He didn't want to say exactly what it was. Just that it was something that would win the whole case.
I'm not the enemy.
Then who are you?
You got all these cops thinking you're a lawyer. Then you got all these lawyers thinking you're some kind of cop. You got everybody fooled, don't you? You know exactly what you want.
You gotta saddle up here, Michael, and get things under control.
What if Arthur was onto something?
Do you know Michael Clayton? We have a situation.
Stay in the car, lock the door. What would they do if he went public? Arthur, open the door.
What would they do? They're doing it.
Freeze!
Who called it in? Does that make sense to you, this happening
This
like
never
that?
happened.
Get out. Get out of the car now.
I'm not the guy that you kill. I'm the guy that you buy. Are you so blind you don't even see what I am? Do I look like I'm negotiating?
Brother, do I look like I'm negotiating? I, again, completely forgot this was your first time with what I think is one of the best movies of the last 2 decades, one of my favorite movies of all time. I've just been picking straight jams for myself personally for most of this year so far. Michael Clayton from the best year of movies in my lifetime, arguably. Technically 99's in my lifetime. We could have a debate, 99 versus 2007, and I'd be up for that debate if you ever want to do it.
Yeah,
it might be a fun pairing.
That would be a neat one. To go by years now, like with the 2x2 is like
it's a thought.
We could talk like next year. We talk decades. Like, you know, we pick a random a random year, and we do, you know,
2x2 retro reviews, battle of the decades.
Yeah,
battle that we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
If you pick 2017, you got to go 1977. If you pick 2007, you got to go 1987. And the 90s is just all by itself. Like it's the most cynical. It's on its own. It's on its own.
Okay.
It stands on its own merits of like, oh my God, look at this.
All right. So
we compare the 90s to now if we want.
We could do that. We could definitely do that. It's 2007. This was an Oscar contender, overshadowed by some more high-profile movies, if you will, and arguably more memorable for a lot of people. But I feel like for a certain amount of people, this one has maybe stood the test of time better than others from that year. I'm not going to retroactively say it's the best. To remind you, it's in the class of movies like No Country for Old Men, which in fact won Best Picture, There Will Be Blood, Zodiac. I just named 3 of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
Once is also this year, a little stealth favorite of mine. This is the year of Juno. This is the year of Into the Wild, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah.
Just a lot of great stuff to see. Great year for cinema.
Agreed.
And a very modern movie in Michael Clayton that is indebted to a lot of 70s thrillers. And I was not fully in my 70s movie mode when I saw this at age 16. on a nice like Wednesday afternoon in the middle of the damn week with one of my very best friends, Mr. Barham Williams, who might be listening to this episode. So shout out to Barham. We went and checked this one out after school. This was one of the best movie going years I've ever had, but there was a moment when he and I turned to each other about 20 minutes into this, and then another one about 20 minutes after that, where we were consistently just like, dude, this is fucking really good. Like, this is a good movie. And then we went and had Central Park hamburgers afterwards, and we talked about it for about an hour because we were pretty floored.
You know what else we did that year?
What's that?
We did the back-to-back double feature, Grindhouse. Planet Terror.
The year of Grindhouse
Death
as well?
Proof. I'm just going through all the shit from 2007, and I'm just like, holy shit. That was a lot in one year.
Grindhouse 2006 in my mind.
I don't know. But it's definitely got Death Proof coming out here as 2007.
All right.
Maybe they released it on its own in 2007. I don't know how that works. But
continue. So you have a list right now?
I mean, yeah, like you got Spider-Man 3. You got all the ones you're missing. You got,
I got Spider-Man 3.
You got Halloween. You got Disturbia, Noah. Disturbia.
Yeah.
No, that's not a good one. Superbad. One nobody saw, but Sunshine. Sunshine.
Do we have an Oceans movie that year? Did we get 13 that year?
I think we did. You know what was really funny? You see it on HBO Max how they ask people their list? They put Shaq up there. He had Oceans 13. Not Oceans 11 or Oceans 12. Shaq had Oceans 13.
Maybe it's only what's available on the service at the time. Maybe 11 and 12 weren't on there.
But yeah, but they give him the list of it to be like,
maybe he's a big Pacino head and he prefers 13. I don't know.
Maybe he does. You got 28 Weeks Later.
Maybe he's like, I love Vincent Cassell, but only when he only appears for 5 minutes. I don't like the full character arc.
Right. He's not my best. He's not the best. Yes. And of course, Noah.
I don't know why that delights me so much, but the idea of Shaq being a huge Vincent Cassell fan is very funny to me. Sorry, go ahead.
You also, I'm recapping 2007 just to hit it home for the viewers. How much other stuff that is killer in there that makes you makes your claim of Michael Clayton is this even more impactful. You have a little movie I love called Transformers. You also have Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
Rush Hour 3, Noah. Rush Hour 3. The first TMNT movie that comes out. God, it's all over the place, man. The Kingdom, really solid. Death Sentence that was made here in Colombia. Hot Fuzz, Noah. Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
And just... Okay, there was a Highlander movie that came out in 2007 that I never saw.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I can't tell if you're playing devil's advocate here.
310 to Yuma.
Ironic.
You got 310 to Yuma, Noah, the remake of that.
Are you done?
There's just so much, man.
To the bottom of your Google list?
And I will say this. All those movies are great. But this is right up there with it. In my top 3 retroactively. We have never talked about that movie year until now in depth. But it'd definitely be in my top 3.
My number 1 from that year is Zodiac. 0 question.
Yes.
And then my 2, 3, and 4 are No Country, There Will Be Blood, Michael Clayton, in a fist fight for which one is my favorite. Because I love all of them for very different reasons. Right. They're all masterpieces as far as I'm concerned. Zodiac is just of an upper echelon because I watched all of those movies a ton of times. I've seen Zodiac upwards of 20 times. I adore that movie.
And yet you don't have a theory on who it is?
What?
You don't have a theory on who
John
it is?
Carroll Lynch. Still walking around. They're letting him act in movies. Bullshit.
The entire time it's been John Carroll Lynch.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was starring in a movie about how he is the devil to distract you from him being the devil.
You're on record that Ted Cruz is not the Zodiac. You heard it here, folks. I got it.
Clearly, it's John Carroll Lynch.
Or
that dude from Roger Rabbit. The voice of Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, okay.
That guy.
They're close.
The most bone-chilling... Sorry.
The most bone-chilling.
This episode is not...
Please tell me.
This episode is not about Zodiac. Never mind.
But it very well could be. Keep going.
I was just going to say, the most bone-chilling scene in, maybe I've ever had in a theater is the basement scene in Zodiac. That's all I was saying. Charles Fleischer was the name. No. Is that right?
Are you sure there's nobody else in the house?
Is it Charles Fleischer?
I think so. I don't know.
Anyway, okay, whatever, dude. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Michael Clayton, you liked it?
Oh yeah, no, it was great.
Okay.
It felt, and honestly, it felt like whoever this guy was making this movie, I'm assuming it didn't come from any kind of other source material. He was like, he like did a bunch of coke and watched all these 70s thrillers.
This is my early one. Retroactively, I understand what won an original screenplay won at the time.
Which was?
Juno. Diablo Cody, there's the whole story behind it. There's an angle. It was a way of, like, much like Promising Young Woman that just won Best Original Screenplay. That used to be the category where you honor the cool indie movie that made a splash, made a lot of money, but you're never going to give Best Picture to. You give it original screenplay. It also had the momentum of having the whole Diablo Cody used to be a stripper. She wrote this in her spare time, like changed her life overnight, all of that sort of stuff. Okay? And people were kind of in love with it. I would argue that, like, she probably should have been nominated for some of her later work, like Young Adult, for instance, which is a far better screenplay in my personal opinion. But yeah, you look at, and I get it. It was flashy for, like, hey, it's got a kitschy dialogue and a very unique voice to it. And some people were, like, completely put off by that. There was backlash to it, but the energy was there for it to win, and it did. And I think deservedly so. I don't dislike that screenplay. But when we're talking about originals, this is the kind of thing where you're like, you're serious. There's no source material. There's no Michael Clayton book. There's no Michael Clayton book series featuring this guy.
No.
Like, how is this not adapted from something? Because it has the energy of, like,
All the President's Men, The Conversation, all these things from
3
the
Days
70s.
of the Condor.
Yes.
Past it, the last vibe I got of this, and it's like huffing the fumes of it, but it never quite got there. Still a movie I love, is something like The Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
With McConaughey. Which was adapted from, I think, a Patterson novel or Grisham or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has the energy of, like, a great, like, page-turning thriller, but then you realize this guy just invented it out of whole cloth. This is one of the best, if I'm not mistaken, this is a debut.
No, it's just a directorial debut.
But it's Tony Gilroy, very famous screenwriter.
Right.
I don't know if you looked up his screenwriting credits.
No.
I'm trying to stay comfortable.
Who's the other one that's like, there's another one we talked about that it's like he wrote a bunch of stuff and then they let him make a movie. Like,
Dan Gilroy, his brother,
okay,
similar story with Nightcrawler. He wrote a lot of stuff,
right?
And then when they finally let him direct one, it was like, oh, what a shocker! It's great.
Do you like Nocturnal? Did you like Nocturnal Animals?
Yes, I did.
That's Tom Ford, the fashion guy.
That's his second movie, though.
What's his first one?
A Single Man with Colin Firth, which I think is a much better movie, even though I like Nocturnal Animals.
I just think it's wild that he's like Tom Ford, the fashion guy.
Yeah, and then I'm going to make movies.
That's just wild to me.
Yeah.
They can inform each other with all that, but it's just, I like...
Well, it's like Anton Corbijn was like a still photographer, right?
Right.
And then transitioned into directing. That's another one.
Garland is the key. He's a writer, and then he starts making these fucking bangers, dude. Straight up bangers, every one of them.
So, to refamiliarize you, because Gilroy has some pretty crazy credits.
Lay it on me.
Okay. We are just doing writing credits.
Yes.
Taking you back to 1992, The Cutting Edge.
Ooh.
Ice skating drama. You have no idea what I'm talking about.
I know The Cutting Edge, Noah. Come on.
Who's in The Cutting Edge? Tell me one person who's in The Cutting Edge.
Timothy Busfield.
No, but D.B. Sweeney is.
That's who I'm thinking.
So that's close enough.
It's close enough, is it not?
I knew what you were basically
You knew who I was
saying.
thinking it was,
Right,
yeah.
Fair enough. Dolores Claiborne.
Kathy Bates. Hello, Dolores.
Extreme Measures. The Devil's Advocate.
Hoo-ha! Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
Did you get my Son of a Woman?
Yes, you did. I did get that
I
shit.
love
dude.
Scott
Yes.
Aukerman so much.
That is fucking perfect. Great. One Oscar, please.
Yep.
Tits. Hoo-ha!
He's one of the many writers that worked on Armageddon.
Okay.
Bait with Jamie Foxx.
Dude, I forgot about Bait until you just said
Proof
the
of
name.
Life with Russell Crowe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And Meg Ryan. Here's where he really, like, I guess, popped for a lot of people. He wrote The Bournes.
Okay.
Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum. And the same year that Ultimatum comes out, he drops his first movie, Michael Clayton, and it's like, I mean, I love you, Jason. I love watching you fight, Matt Damon. But like, you want to tell me the better thriller of the year? Somehow, the one with a bunch of lawyers running around and like one car bomb was way more thrilling to me.
Yeah, dude. No, the
everything
tension
that happened in Ultimatum,
that's,
most of which I could not even recap for you. Supremacy is my favorite, by the way. The second one, I think it's the best.
I don't think I've ever seen any of the ones past the first one. If I do, I don't remember.
The second two are so much better. Like, all respect to Doug Liman for kicking it off. Supremacy and Ultimatum, the Greengrass ones, are so much better.
I think I've seen Ultimatum.
Supremacy's the shit, dude. You gotta watch the second.
Supremacy, where he goes back and like he comes out.
She dies in the opening, Franca Potente, and he basically has to like come out of hiding to like, why'd you track us down and kill her? Like, fuck you guys. I was trying to be done with this.
Now
so
he's
got to settle some scores, and in the process, I don't want to spoil it for you, but like he again has to like reconfront a mission from his past, essentially. But 2 has like some absolutely dazzling hand-to-hand stuff and one of the best extended car chases just ever. It's
3,
so
but
good.
3 he goes back to like the program and they show him like before he was Jason Bourne.
3
he signed
is like
up.
the culmination,
right? And he dives out the window at the end of the water.
There's
or
there's the big jump through a window at one point in that one from the trailer. You might be
I've seen that through. I've seen Ultimatum then.
Okay. Anyways,
I didn't see the new one they made.
He
in
does
Vegas.
Michael Clayton. Again, original screenplay nomination. It's up for Best Picture. Clooney's up for Best Actor. Like,
Tilda Swinton's up for Best Supporting Actor.
And fucking wins. And this is where a lot of people were like, who's that? Who is that?
Is that lady from the beach?
Yeah, dude. Gavin was unwittingly on the Tilda train before it pulled out of the station.
Are you kidding me? Constantine? The beach?
No. I'm saying you were ahead of me by the beach because I didn't catch on until Vanilla Sky in 2001 or 2000.
Why did you say it like that? You said it with a look on your face that made it seem like
vanilla. You got to do it kind of like your
Vanilla Sky.
Kind of like your Paul McCartney singing the song.
You said it. The look on your face
Vanilla
was like,
Sky.
I'm better than you, and I'm going to tell you why I'm better than you because you like her from the beach.
She's way
I
better.
like her from Vanilla Sky.
Arguably, she's way better in the beach, and she has a way bigger role. She's in Vanilla Sky for like literally 2 minutes of screen time. But I was like, who is that? She's so like striking looking, just in general.
I think she should play Ellie Jackson in the LaRue biopic.
You have literally said this like 5 or 6 times on our podcast.
I'm getting old.
But
I'm
I
starting
know
to
I
forget
repeat
stuff.
myself too, so what are you going to do? All right.
It's just fresh for the new listener.
After the
listeners,
rousing
that's all.
success of Michael Clayton, and I'm like, dude, I cannot wait to see what this guy directs next. Do you remember a movie called Duplicity? Clive Owen and Julia Roberts?
Yes.
I loved this. I saw it day one in the theaters.
Yes.
There was nobody there, I should mention. Okay. And it was a huge bomb, and nobody went to go see it. But yeah, as a follow-up, it's a comedy.
Yes.
First of all, but it has the intricate plotting and writing of Michael Clayton, just applied to something completely different. And then he finally took a crack at a Bourne movie. He did Legacy when Renner came in, which I have not seen. And he hasn't directed anything since, which I would say is a goddamn shame.
Has he written anything ever since then?
His most recent writing credit was on Beirut, the John Hamm international thriller from a couple years ago.
I think I've seen stuff for that on Netflix.
2018. He's listed on Rogue One, another movie where there's like a billion writers. The Great Wall with Damon. So we're starting to see like some of these seem like writer for hire sort of things.
Right.
And he's going to be writing the Cassian Andor series, or writing for it, or maybe he just gets credit for character credits. It says he is writing an episode.
Okay.
Oh my god! Sorry.
What?
So the director of this Andor series name is Toby Haynes but I definitely read it as Todd Haynes, and I was like, Todd Haynes is directing the Cassian Andor show? What is that going to be like?
Wow.
So weird. Okay. All right. As I mentioned, it's very intricately plotted.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have to go through beat by beat. I would love for you to talk through beat. I gave you my opening, or not opening day. It went wide eventually. But again, seeing this during the middle of the week when I'm in high school with one of my best friends out of the blue. Again, we're 16. There's no reason we should be excited about this movie.
Well,
on paper, they're not appealing to us. You know what I'm saying?
No.
The movie is not targeted or launched at us. But we both came out of that theater like, dude, holy shit. We were bound together by a love of Clooney from the Ocean's movies. Because this was at a time when it was not okay to like 12 and 13.
The Ocean's movies?
Yes.
You weren't bound by From Dusk Till Dawn? What the fuck is wrong with you?
No, I'm talking about Barham and I specifically.
Right. Why weren't you not both bound by From Dusk Till Dawn? We were bound over our love of the Ocean's franchise because this was at a time when it was fashionable to say that the sequels sucked. And we did not abide that. He totally got 12 and what they were going for. He liked the energy. He appreciated it. And that's one of the early times when I was like, Barham, that's my guy. Anyways, so we're both Clooney fans. That's why we went to this. Okay.
Basically. And like I said, I'm not fully into my 70s retrospective. I've started to hit some of it, but I'm not a douchey cinephile yet.
And you're not
quite yet, okay?
You said it, not me, okay?
Well, if you put the caveat in front of it, then nobody can give you shit for it. Then
right.
you don't sound like a pretentious asshole. You're like, I already said I'm a pretentious asshole.
Yeah. So you weren't going to this for like, oh man, Tom Wilkinson in the bedroom was amazing. Let me see what's going on with this guy.
Yeah, no, I was not like, oh my God, Sidney Pollack, like the echoes of the 70s films that you made, and now you're in one of these, and you're great. I think I was like, I had seen Eyes Wide Shut, obviously, and I was like, all right, I adore Sidney Pollack as an actor. His movies are okay.
Yeah.
I like some Sidney Pollack movies, but as a presence on screen, particularly in his like 50s forward, I just love Sidney Pollack. So,
and he's related to Kevin or no?
Not that I'm aware of.
Be funny if they were like cousins, though, right?
I don't think so. Yeah. Could be wrong on that. He is, of course, the big head lawyer at the firm.
Right.
He's dealing with the shit show at the opening,
mm-hmm.
where we also get this absolutely wild, like, this is like a laying your dick on the table kind of moment from a screenwriting perspective, I feel like, which is like, I'm going to open cold with a monologue about, like, I'm talking about like filth and afterbirth, but relating it to like a metaphor, like
mm-hmm.
all of the shit that's in that. And it's like, this is how I'm going to cold open, is like an office building shutting down at night, as far as you can tell, quietness on the street level and everything, and then we move to this one floor where everything is super chaotic.
Yes, because they're in the middle of a like countdown, crunch down, something like that.
Yes, and of course I'm sure, it's meant to be disorienting. It's meant to be like we're gonna just like throw a lot of stuff on your plate immediately right out of the gate. So you've got Tom Wilkinson kind of ranting in your ear as all of this is happening. And it builds to a bit of a crescendo, and then you're into, the chaos of that meeting floor, and the question of where's
excuse me,
where's Karen fucking Crowder?
Right.
And we hard cut to, again, in her Academy Award winning performance, Tilda Swinton in a bathroom, like sweating bullets, basically. And I'm sure you're like, what's going on, man?
Was she not doing cocaine? Something? I thought she was doing cocaine. What am I thinking of?
I don't know what you're thinking of.
What was I thinking of? Was somebody in a bathroom doing cocaine recently?
Pulp Fiction?
A bump. Do a bump here. Do a bump there. It was something I was watching.
Okay.
I can't think of it.
She's sweating through her shirt.
Right.
That's with her pits. I don't recall any cocaine in the scene.
I just thought I saw it.
She's smelling herself
to
see
maybe
if she
that's
stinks of sweat, of flop sweat, because she may or may not have ordered the execution of a person who may or may not be dead, and we don't know. But we don't know that at the time, obviously.
Right.
I'm talking with the full breadth of knowledge of the movie.
So spoilers for Michael Clayton if you haven't figured it out by now.
Okay. And we get the introduction to Clayton, who's in a backroom gambling.
Very Killing of a Chinese Bookie-esque.
Absolutely.
Feel
Did you watch Mikey and Nikki yet?
Not yet.
You son of a bitch. Get on it, dude.
What is that? I
sent you a text. I don't even know if you responded. I said Mikey and Nikki on HBO Max. It's a Cassavetes movie.
Oh, okay.
And I was, in the same way that I was like, Killing of a Chinese Bookie is Uncut Gems before Uncut Gems.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey and Nikki is Good Time before Good Time.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yes. So much more so than the connection between Uncut Gems and you're gonna like it. Peter Falk.
I guarantee it. Oh,
Peter Falk,
say no more. Say no more.
Cassavetes, directed by Elaine May. But yes, great shit.
Okay.
It's on HBO Max. I don't know that it's like leaving anytime soon, but it's on there through the Criterion, so you never know. Check.
Okay.
Give it a look. See.
Okay.
Give it a look. See.
Weekend is on there now.
Weekend has been on there since they launched, and I still have it in my queue, and I have not watched it.
I forgot we were doing Rocky and Karate Kid.
That is one of those.
That's one of those I was going to make you watch because I rewatched it the other night.
Well, and that's one of those from that era where it was like super. And when I started getting into like, oh, dude, I want to watch the most fucked up shit ever, and it's like Weekend would always come up on lists, and I just never got around to watching it. And now it's like, I saw it was on there, I immediately added it to my queue, and now it's like, well, I know it's there. And I just have it like.
Well, if you want to watch it, let me give you the Criterion Collection DVD I have, so you can like.
Oh, okay.
You can get all the other stuff you want out of it.
Okay.
I have not opened it. I've been like I can't watch it. I don't want to. I want to save it. Why am I saving it? I've had this Criterion Blu-ray for this movie for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't opened it up. And then it showed up there, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it here. That's cool. It's been a while since I've seen it. Let's watch it again. Because I asked for it for Christmas, and I got it. And I was just like, I can't. It's like a thing I had to like. You had to be in a certain kind of mood. And I'd already watched Marie Antoinette, so I was like, oh yeah, kill the rich. Let's do it. fuck the world. Like society.
Which Marie Antoinette?
Don't know the fucking Kristen Dunst one.
Okay. There's other Marie Antoinette movies. That's why I was asking. I was just making sure.
As far as I'm concerned, there's only that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the music choices and cues in that,
and the visuals and the performances. And
dude, that last shot,
the story choices,
the last shot of the palace,
because it's a fucking masterpiece.
Yes, it is. The last shot of that with like the her bedroom in ruins. I'm like,
she's just a kid, man.
She was just a kid. That's the whole thing I took from this.
Yeah.
She only said the thing about she probably didn't even say the thing about cake. Yeah. Now that people have like looked into it.
Yeah.
You know, that's all. It's like you gonna blame her for this shit? Like there was a king. This isn't England where they don't have kings anymore.
This is an impotent piece of shit. By Jason Schwartzman. Yeah.
I do think that is I do think that is perfect casting for Schwartzman.
That's my opinion.
Little fuckboy the 14th, just out there galloping on your horse.
One of the best features on that DVD is MTV Cribs with Louis the 14th, where he is fake in character, taking them through like, it's my palace at Versailles. Yo, check this shit out.
Dude, speaking of that, do you remember when Slackers came out? They did a Cribs with Devon Sawa, and Schwartzman was like in his garage for some reason. I guess he was crashing there for like a couple days, and he keeps yelling at Schwartzman to get out of shots. Schwartzman, just like all this shit as they're going through his like little tiny, house on the hill, whatever kind of place Devon Sawa was staying. Anyway, Michael Clayton, what a movie! I nearly shot my load in the first like 20 minutes. But I didn't.
Okay. He goes.
He leaves the thing. He gets the phone call. He leaves.
And we get the introduction that he's a fixer for a law firm. He's technically a lawyer, but he's the guy who gets shit done.
Right.
Knows lots of in and outs.
He's a Ray Donovan.
He's the guy on the ground. He's, who you call when you're in a pinch.
Every firm's got one.
And so after investigating that, great kind of like our centerpiece opening dialogue scene with what is his name? He was on Years of American Horror Story. I know he's like super well known.
I know you're talking about. I knew the face whenever he was going through like Zapansky.
Keep talking.
I don't know.
I'm gonna find it.
What am I thinking of? What other big? Okay, well, I guess it's Oceans. Wasn't there another big
Dennis
Clooney one?
O'Hare? Jesus Christ!
Wasn't there a big other Clooney one before, right around this time? Syriana,
he wins Best Supporting Actor for.
Right. Does he win Best? Wait, has he won Best Actor before?
No, he has not.
Okay. I mean, it's crying shame. He could have won for this, totally, but
Well,
who he loses to, I completely understand. I get it.
Are we really having that conversation?
I'm
like
not,
at the end
listen,
of the
I'm
day,
just saying he could have won it for this. If they don't nominate,
if he had not won for Syriana, totally possible.
Right.
I think that was enough to like move him out of consideration. Given who's up, I don't know who my second to Day-Lewis is, honestly. What?
You're second to Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I'm saying he won. I agree with him winning. I don't know who my second pick in that category would be. I don't know if it would be Clooney or one of the other. I don't know who my second choice is.
Who are the other choices?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, well, you should read them out loud while we're talking about this caveat before we get back to the movie, because I'm curious now. Because I guess it's just weird to think about what people win for. Because, like, when you say Academy Award winning, Daniel Day-Lewis, I want to say, oh, yeah, for Gangs of New York, right? And that's not the case.
Right.
But I love Bill the Butcher. Not as much as I love, Nathaniel Hawkeye of the Yankees, Natty Bumppo, whatever you want to call them, Last Mohicans. But, like, I love Bill the Butcher, so I'm assuming, like, oh, that's the one he won for. So you're telling me now he didn't win for that, he won for something else. It's kind of like, well, wait a minute, what? Because I wasn't watching the Oscars religiously like you were. So I'm kind of like, You got to remember, like, this is what? The movie, it comes out in 2007?
Yes.
And so this is 2008 when we're watching it winning, right?
Correct.
Right. This is also my last semester and your last semester of high school, my last semester of USC Sumter before I move. So I'm kind of like out of it when it comes to awards that year. I'm not really paying attention. I got a job. I'm working 3 days a week.
Okay, we get it.
Hey, you said...
We fucking get it, bro.
Hey, man, you said talk. I was just talking.
Oh, thank you.
Jesus.
Okay, I did both.
Come on, man. What are you doing here? You told me to talk and vamp, and then you're yelling at me.
Oh, God. Okay.
I get no respect
The
around
nominees for Best Actor at the 2008 Academy Awards were Johnny Depp for Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Big old thumbs down, a little kerplunk from you. You didn't even make a noise. Gavin shockingly gave that one a big thumbs down.
This is me saying, nah, I wouldn't have picked him.
Viggo Mortensen for Eastern Promises. This might be my number 2.
Yeah, possibly.
Tommy Lee Jones for In the Valley of Elah, or Ella, however you want to pronounce it, which I think has no cultural footprint, or nobody remembers that.
Nope.
But at the time, pre-Hurt Locker, at least in conversation with Mom and I, we were like, this is the best, like,
movie about
9/11
war.
adjacent movie
right.
that has been made in the wake of 9/11. If you're removing United 93 from the context and that it's like impeccably made, but also I never, ever, ever, ever want to watch that movie again.
Right.
It was like I could see myself watching In the Valley of Ella again, even though that one is extremely heavy.
It is.
And then we have Clooney for Michael Clayton, and of course the great Daniel Day-Lewis, who won for There Will Be Blood, which is maybe the performance of the last century. So, I don't know.
They didn't even nominate Javier Bardem?
Supporting.
And
he won.
That's right.
Tom Wilkinson.
Okay.
For this movie.
I don't know why.
That's how this whole conversation got started on the In the Bedroom episode.
Okay.
Was how Tom Wilkinson
lost to him.
Lost once to Denzel and again to Javier Bardem.
So they're saying that because to me, like, that book and that movie is him. Like, I know that it's Luella Moss as the main character, but that book, like that.
I mean,
I want Cormac McCarthy to give me No Country for Old Men just from his perspective.
I think the other argument there was like Tommy Lee Jones could have been nominated for In the Valley of Ella or for No Country for Best Actor.
That's true.
You could have gone either way on it. I agree that Josh Brolin, just sheer screen time, should not be in consider. But at the same time, maybe he should, because he is visually on screen a lot.
Right.
But
I think it's
a weird year.
It's the off-screen, no note, foot end, you're done. We find you dead in the hotel.
Yeah. But
of it all.
Bardem as supporting, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I would never call that the lead performance.
I know. It's in my mindset of like, I would think of him as a lead. He would deserve it for that. But
other people who were up, just to refresh your memory, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman for Charlie Wilson's War. Mm-hmm. Great performance from him. Movie's kind of whatever. So I think that was part of the trajectory of like never had a shot. Casey Affleck for the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Another movie that came out in 2007 that I'm like, holy shit.
Yep.
Another masterpiece. Hal Holbrook for Into the Wild. I loved Into the Wild when it came out. Another one I saw with Barham in the theater. Great experience. Tom Wilkinson for Michael Clayton. Of course, they lost to Javier Bardem. What are you going to do? And then Tilda surprised everybody.
Yeah, I wanted. Tell me who she was up against, because that's
surprised
wild.
everybody. She was up against Saoirse Ronan. I think her first nomination for Atonement.
Okay.
Fuck her in that movie, by the way.
Yes. Oh my God.
Not cool.
Not at all.
Not cool at all what
Good
she did
God.
there. That's also my least favorite of the Best Picture nominees, but was a movie when I was watching it where I got to the end and I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Really? I was so frustrated.
God, I haven't watched it in years.
I went from like thinking I'm not that invested into this to being like very like viscerally upset by the reveal of the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Cate Blanchett for I'm Not There, playing Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what a lot of people
Not
thought
I'm
it
Still
was
Here?
gonna- Correct.
Okay, just checking.
Correct. Which I think is where a lot of people thought it might go. And then the other one who was in consideration at the time, and she's been in other stuff. I never felt like she got the extra pop. And I know she's huge in theater and it like doesn't really matter. But Amy Ryan in Gone Baby Gone, another movie that came out in 2007, which she is incredible in, but a tough character at the same time where it's like, do you really want to like give the award for this? Like, but
do you think that do you think there's a correlation between it being we have 2 more years and we're changing a decade and at least like, well, at least that decade, it was like, we have 1 more year of the guy. Like, be patient. This is the last full year of Bush and we'll get rid of him. Do you think that has any correlation to like the amount of, or was it just like the mortgage crisis was in full swing? And so like banks are being able to, they're making money hand over fist from people in subprime mortgages that they can throw a bunch of money at Hollywood and Hollywood can just like, we'll greenlight anything. I just don't know what it is because I
truly don't know how this is only just 13 years ago and it feels like we're talking about a caliber of movie that exists like 40 years ago or 50 years ago.
But
50, excuse me. I have to keep reminding myself how far back the 70s are.
And I think my theory is because this is before your True Detectives, your Game of Thrones, your big budget, all on each. Sopranos ends around this time, does it not? 2007, 2008? Yeah. So you've had that, but you haven't had that holy shit television. That hasn't happened yet. So you can only get these kind of things in film, so to speak. I'm not saying any of these movies should have been series, but you have something like a Die Hard that's started way back in the 80s, coming out in the same year as all these other ones we've mentioned. There hasn't been a huge emphasis on let's go back and remake shit that we haven't made before. There still seems like there's a little bit of like, hey, let's make this kind of like political thriller that is its own thing. That's like, I mean, if you didn't tell me, I would have thought this was I thought this was a legit like whistleblower thing. Like this was a real story where they tried to murder someone for blowing the whistle on what was happening, to the point that like, I just assume if there's any big corporate lawsuit anywhere, somebody's getting car bombed, somebody's getting their, the fucked up shit that happens to, what's his face in this? It's all going to happen
in very short order. So the opening again, he goes out on this call and then you see him driving. It's early morning. He gets out of his car to take a gander at some horses on a hill. Boom, car bomb goes off. What are you thinking at this point?
Are
you expecting, what, 3 days earlier, or how long? 3 weeks earlier? I don't know how.
It was only 3 days earlier.
Yeah, 3 days earlier. 3 days prior.
No, I honestly was like, I didn't expect to jump back. I expected to jump forward.
Right.
I wanted to know, like, all right. But then as soon as I see it, I'm like, well, yeah, I got to know how I got here. That's right. What? Yeah. That's dumbass. Come on, Gav. And we keep moving forward. Yeah. And, piecing together how we get there and all that. It's just one of those, like, it just feels like you have to give me that 3 days, because otherwise I don't know why he gets out to stop and look at the horses. Because
a detail that, frankly, I missed several times watching this movie before it finally clicked. Like, why he gets out and looks at the horses.
Which is what?
The book from his son.
Oh, yeah. Which apparently was all made up.
I was going to say, the whole realm and conquest thing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm like, Tony Gilroy, dude, just like...
Well, he said he made it up because it helped him connect with his son.
Yes. This literally felt like one of those movies in the same way that Nightcrawler from his brother did, where it's like, it feels like you have been writing and honing this thing for your entire career as a screenwriter. It feels like your entire career has been building towards you making this like perfectly crystallized thing of what you do. There is like, it's like a Swiss watch. Like, there's no sequence I would remove from this, and it even still leaves room for the classic 70s thing of like, and it's named after the guy, for all of the thriller aspects of this, all of the corporate espionage, all of that. This is a character study.
Right.
This is about a dude who is very good at what he does, who finally has to stop and kind of think about like why he's doing the things he's doing.
Right.
Where it's gotten him thus far is worth it, essentially.
Right.
And where his morals stack up.
Yeah.
In all of that. And you start with Clooney, like, the energy he brings to that Dennis O'Hare scene, where he's just like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a janitor. Like, I'm here to clean shit up, essentially.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you don't get that, like, that's something he was just told earlier that day, which you get to later in the movie and everything. And he's echoing that line. But you hear him set up as like, oh, he's the fixer. You're expecting Winston Wolfe. You're expecting him to show up with like Danny Ocean style energy. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't at all. And you're like, who the fuck is this guy? It's supposed to be suave George Clooney. Like, what's going on here? And he somehow manages to make you, even with his perfectly speckled gray hair and that chin and all of it, he somehow makes you believe that he's this somewhat beleaguered, sad sack workaholic who has like, he's trying to do the best with his son. He's got a working relationship with his ex-wife, but they're separated. And you get the setup that he's in a bunch of debt.
His brother's shit.
His brother's a fuck up. He's carrying his brother. He's got this albatross of this failed restaurant hanging around his neck. And he's under the gun. He's not this polished, like, dude that you're expecting when I think you hear like, oh, Clooney is like a, corporate lawyer, essentially. You're thinking he's going to bring some other energy, to the point where you get an early scene once we flash back and everything of him in the office on the phone.
Right.
You get like kind of this is what his day is like.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it's literally just like endless legal advice, because he just seems like a really smart guy and a lawyer who like knows how to approach different circumstances. So he just gets called for every little thing, essentially. And he's that guy for this firm, but has kind of been left behind in as much as like, he's not a partner. He doesn't really have anything to show for it. Like, they keep telling him he's valued, but
right, they don't really actually show him.
Yes. So I don't know what else you want to hit. Eventually, he gets called in on Wilkinson,
right,
who has been working on this long-standing lawsuit with what is the company called? Oh my God.
Were they an energy company or a car company? What were they?
They're one of these like vague GE-esque, have their hands in everything, but they're a chemical fertilizer company, but they do a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And they're international, and they have all of these ostensibly like world-saving endeavors. That's their corporate image, is like, we're making the world safer and more green and healthier. But
But the fertilizer gives people cancer.
Yes.
And there's a huge class action lawsuit.
And also poison crops of farmers that like may speak out. All of that stuff that we eventually discover. So Tom Wilkins's character has flipped out from everybody else's perspective, like gone off his rocker. We get it revealed that like
huge crisis of conscience.
He does have mental health issues that he struggled with, and so they call in Clooney because he's kind of like the Wilkinson whisperer, if you will. They call him in, and he's talking tons of crazy shit that, again, at the time sounds like complete psychobabble, where he's talking about like two Lithuanian hookers, and they're sucking on my cock, and I'm at like all of this shit, and you're like, only Tom Wilkinson, dude. I'm like, you put the same monologue in like some other actor's mouth, and I'm laughing for the wrong reason.
Right.
Whereas this is like, I should be laughing at this, but I know the exact tone it's striking at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Juntao.
Yes. Yes. Old Matt Fowler. Yes. So he's trying to he's got to bring him back into the fold. They got to get him under control. Tilda is Karen Crowder. She's like basically the legal side she represents them exclusively.
The company.
Yeah, the company whose name continues to escape me.
Not Clooney's law firm.
Correct.
Right.
But again, Clooney's law firm is working on behalf of them. Like they're trying to help this company essentially, except for Wilkinson, who is basically flipped or is in the process of flipping because he has discovered a deep, dark secret. Mm-hmm. Which is essentially, it's a weed killer. There's this harmful chemical, and they tried to cover it up, and they, the highest of the higher ups were aware of the cover up. That's the other element. It's not like this was something that was brushed under the rug and people weren't aware of. This is like some legit dangerous shit that they just intentionally covered up because of corporate greed and any other number of things.
Right, and we need to make it known that he's going crazy in a deposition with a girl who's a family,
her family is one of these farmers who's involved in the lawsuit. Yes,
but they're all dead. It's just the girl left now. She has to live with family. She's on her
with like
own.
her sister and her brother-in-law. Yes, I believe. Yes, and he, again, from our perspective at the time, it seems like he just kind of became like obsessed with this younger woman and like okay, he's got some delusions of grandeur. I don't know, but. Of course, if you got your thriller brain on or whatever, you're like, okay, the crazy guy spouting conspiracy theories,
it's all true.
Believe everything.
Every fucking thing.
Like, can we move past this? But it gives you enough for why the people in universe would be like, oh, he's just off his rocker. He's off his meds. Like, brilliant lawyer, but the guy's kind of a kook. So we got to keep a close watch on him. And so they're basically terrified that the company has the lawsuit brought against them is now going to like sue them, the lawyer, the law firm, for breach of contract, because it's like, okay, your guy just like completely lost his shit, made us look bad, like etc.
Right.
The ultimate fallout, like you said, he has a piece of information. He like can prove that there was this cover up that took place, etc. But Clooney cannot keep a hold of him, essentially.
Right.
Loses track of him at the hotel after Wilkinson has called up and talked to Clooney's son, who we should bring up. I'm trying to like breeze through things because I know we're getting late here, but because that father-son relationship is one of the cores of like why I absolutely love this movie.
Yes.
Because again, like I said, you see him, the early scene where he drives him to school and like he's telling him all about the Realm and Conquest book and trying to get him excited about it. And Clooney plays this perfect note of like, I'm probably not going to read that book. Like, I know in my head I'm not going to read that book. The kid's already kind of calling me on, but you're not going to read it. Like, I left you a copy already, Dad. Like, what the fuck? But the tone of, I'll read it, is so perfect of like, he knows in his heart of hearts he's probably not going to read it, but he's giving at least enough of a genuine response to his son of like, I do give a shit, man. Like, I'm kind of trying, even if I haven't tried my best over the years.
I'm not ignoring you, okay?
Right.
This isn't a silent ride.
I'm not an absentee father in the traditional sense of like, oh, this guy, like, he's so consumed with work, he's got no time for his kid. It doesn't have that energy at all. It has a very realistic energy of, I think, probably what life is like for like a high-powered lawyer who's busting all over the place. Anyways. Where do you want to go?
I mean, because it's one of those that, like I said, I thought this was a thing that actually happened.
So
where it was like a real case,
sinister.
when it gets to the most sinister, because there was another movie I don't know if you watched a bunch, or maybe Mom talked about it all the time, but Boiler Room. I remember famously from the trailer, they say anyone who tells you the money is the root of all evil doesn't have it. Mm-hmm. And when you're talking about the amount of money, one, that is on the line for a payout to people, when you realize that in real life, it's been uncovered that most like trucking companies say, if you get in an accident with a car on the road, run it over, because it's better for us to pay out a death suit than for you to injure someone and we pay for the rest of their life.
Right.
That's it's a known thing. There's an acceptable number of people who can die doing something before it gets too crazy. It's like they told us a big thing a couple months ago with work was that the people we do all our insurance from, the whatnot, they don't have a pandemic clause. So we paid a ton of money for people who were, out of work for COVID. Mm-hmm. Aflac and all these other big companies, they got pandemic clauses. If a pandemic's declared, they don't pay you shit.
Not to be confused with Affleck, who told us, in fact, that the only people who think that money is the root of all evil are those that never had it.
Exactly. So, in my head,
he's basically trying to be Alec Baldwin from Glengarry Glen Ross.
I was thinking like Gordon Gekko, Greed is good.
He's trying to be that scene. I know. He has the one scene. He's the Alec Baldwin in Glengarry.
Right.
That's what he's doing in that scene.
But so, like, knowing where it goes to, it's just, I mean, it's Tom Wilkinson's Ultimate Fate is just up there with just the most, like.
I knew it would fuck you up.
It's the moment in
the theater where we were just like, is this happening right now? Like.
The only other time
this should be the climax. Like, what the fuck is going on?
The only other time I felt that way was after, like, the first time I watched Green Room. Was just like, oi. But like it was like, oi, hey, with Green Room. Whereas this, I was like, oh, well, they're just they've definitely just put something in his neck. Like he's done.
That sequence
is
which we should say, okay,
fucking just ugh.
When you've seen the movie more than once, and I think you. Probably.
I watched it twice in the interim.
Hell yeah. But when you go back, that scene where Tilda Swinton basically signs the death warrant verbally is an acting clinic, dude. Those two people talking around something without actually saying it, and all of he's like, okay, proceed, or okay, back off.
Yeah.
And you see her doing the mental calculation, like,
it would be this much money.
Really about
can I do this?
Basically, kill this guy. I'm not doing it myself.
I am a third party removed. And how okay am I with this?
Yes.
Moving forward, I think I'll be okay, because I'd much rather have this happen than me lose my job.
Yes.
Or my company pay out and me be on the outs. So yeah, I'll go ahead. And the thing is, they treat those two guys with the same kind of luster that they treat George Clooney. In so much as every firm's got a fixer like Michael Clayton, every firm's got a fixer like these two fucks. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's
to the point that I just assume now Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, CBS, Walgreens, Disney, all of them have it's a two-faced, double-sided coin, whatever.
Yeah.
There's I can fix this, and there's we can handle this. We can fix it. We'll make it go away.
Yeah.
And no one will be the wiser. And it would take someone like a Michael Clayton to be like, wait a minute, this is kind of off here. You know? But
they
works.
have that conversation where you're like, are they talking about what I think they're talking about? So you're
by the time I realized what they were talking about, that scene was on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know that he's in danger. And then we're back to Clooney at Clayton's father's birthday.
Right.
With the family gathered around. This is what we've already been set up that, like, one of the brothers is a fuck up, the other one is a cop.
Right.
Okay. And so the family is cops and lawyers, but there's the black sheep, of course.
Who's the dad? Is he somebody important?
I don't know. I think he's been in stuff, but he wasn't like it's that guy.
It wasn't a name.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, we get stuff with his brother who's the cop and his sisters and everything. Again, I think all of the beauty of the way all of the family and the interpersonal stuff is written, and it's just smart writing, and it's like the kind of stuff where I just wish more things did it. At no point does it treat you like an idiot.
No.
Like, these people aren't sitting there going like, oh, okay, these are like the pre-established relationships. Hey, my sister such and such or whatever. You're just like, I can feel out naturally through the dialogue and the way these people are talking to each other what their
exposition whatsoever.
What their relationship
That is the brilliance of the writing in this, and anything that's worth its salt is it tells you everything you need to know without hitting you over the head and being like, I'm Michael Clayton's brother. I am a policeman.
Let people come to you. Right. You don't always have to dumb it down or take it to this next level. Like, I always appreciate a movie that like doesn't take for granted the fact that like, I'm here, I'm invested, I'm ready for you to show me something. I'm an active participant in this. So when you start talking to me like I'm a fucking 5-year-old,
if you aren't Deadpool, I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Right.
But that's what we're talking about. Smart adult thrillers, etc. Which
I think you talked about on either In the Bedroom or wherever.
Yes.
Where have they gone? Have they gone the way of the dodo?
TV, essentially.
Are they Prestige TV probably, yeah.
So, anyways, we're in that birthday scene, and you're like, okay, we're here for a bit. And then we cut back over to Wilkinson coming to the apartment. Excuse me. When he arrives back in New York, I love that he immediately when Clayton finally tracks him down and is basically like, hey, like, these are the stakes. If you're going to pursue this, like, you know, I can't help you sort of thing. Like, come in, let's hash this out, etc. And Wilkinson's kind of like, well, if you don't work for them and you are concerned about me, or like who your allegiance is to, essentially, like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, which side are you on? Because I'm telling you, these guys are the villains, the people we're representing.
Right.
So, does that bother you, or are you just trying to maintain the status quo? Or are you just trying to shut me up in the same way they all are?
Right.
While he's having this conversation, he has a giant bag full of baguettes.
Yes.
And he's going on about, like, take one. It's the best bread I ever tasted. When he starts going on these rants and stuff, I love it. But I bring it up because one of my favorite details, when Clooney goes into this apartment a little later, and he goes in there, only a couple things. There's one bottle of champagne.
Yes.
Because he thought the girl was coming into town. And she did come into town. There's like what looks like fruit cocktail on the top shelf.
Yes.
And then there's a shit ton of country crock butter.
Yes.
And I didn't pick up on it until this time. I was like, what the hell is he got all that
they were
butter
planning on
for?
eating all that
and
bread.
I was like, all that bread he just bought. But I love that there's nothing else in the fridge. Champagne, country crock butter, and fruit cups. That's it.
The fruit cups are going to be the dessert.
Yes.
You know that.
Fruit cocktail, which looked like it was all watermelon. I don't think there's anything else in
Probably.
it. But yeah.
Watermelon's a nice dessert.
But I'm sorry. And I did have the thought, I was like, where's the Dom Perignon and the Wolfgang Puck? Where is it? Where's the Beluga caviar?
It's a fuck house.
Okay.
Yeah. So that
so I'm sure that took you off kilter.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit, they just killed off Tom Wilkinson.
They did, but then to the point I was like, oh, well, now I know why the car got blown up. Right. I don't know why.
You're already on the train.
But okay, so either Clooney's gonna like find out and like that this was all whatever,
this sequence where
she's gonna call it in on him as well.
When Wilkinson comes in, he's just like coming back into his apartment. They tase him. I was having this conversation because Veronica watched it with me this most recent time.
Mm-hmm.
They tase him to kind of incapacitate him. They get him down on the ground. They pop some sort of like aerosol into his mouth. Mm-hmm. What do you think they're doing there?
Narcan.
Okay. For what? I sound like a complete idiot. I don't watch enough medical dramas. For what purpose?
So like Narcan is supposed to like delay, like if you are ingesting anything, it's basically like to clean everything out.
They're
so it's
priming him for it to take a while and look natural.
Right.
Okay.
Because if there's
not show up
whatever is going to be on whatever. What do they give him a drug for making him look like he had a heart attack? Does he take too many pills?
They don't even specify it because they say they found him in the tub.
Yeah,
you see them prepping him for the tub.
Right. So in order to make sure there's no, I may not be Narcan, I don't know, but in my head that was a primer to be like, okay, he's tased, he's incapacitated. It's a mix of like it will clean out anything, it will, prime whatever they're going to do to him for that to work the way it's supposed to, and also get out of his system to the point that it will be essentially untraceable.
The way these guys move and the way they're talking to each other, like, you better hit it. Like, we're on a timetable. Like, you better stick that needle, like, right now. And then they just kind of, just calmly, they're just looking at their watches, and it's like, I would venture to guess these guys have done this once or twice before.
Right.
Like, the level of precision and the matter-of-fact coldness of, like, we just murdered a man in about the most humane way you could do it.
Right.
The least graphic and, like, confrontational. But
unless
done with such passivity that it is disturbing to watch. Where you're just like, these guys are... There's no souls there. Like, how do you just... Right. I understand in your head, you're just like, this is the job. This is what I got to do. This is the next thing.
But if you want to argue, aren't they both ex-military?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to argue, this is one of the crazier post 9/11 movies that's ever come out.
Yeah.
Look what we've done.
Yeah.
Only other thing I was going to say, that in the nose could have been aerosol potassium cyanide. It's the only thing I could think of. Right up the nose, just two puffs of potassium cyanide.
It in his mouth. They specifically hold his mouth open and they pump something in there. I've never been able to I didn't get it. But that's the kind of details too that I love, where it's like, I don't need to know. The movie knows. Like the movie knows what it's doing. It looks like what it reads as is guys who know exactly what the hell they're doing it really well.
Right.
And it's even more chilling because of that. So shortly afterwards, again, everybody's like, oh, he cracked, he went crazy, he offed himself. And Clooney immediately, even at the wake and everything, is just not buying. He's just like, something does not add up here.
Right.
Like, this does not fully work for me. And then he's had an earlier scene where he had to swing by Sidney Pollack's place and basically be like, I need a loan. Like, I need money to cover my debts, essentially. I've never asked you guys for anything. I'm asking now.
Yeah.
And so several scenes later, Wilkinson has been killed. And we're kind of just left in an air of like, was any of this going to get settled? Like, are we going to get any justice for any of this shit?
Yeah.
Because they're just at his wake. Clooney's none the wiser. And he comes in the next day and they give him his money and they're like, hey, just so you know, like, you made a lot of people nervous around here with the amount of shit that you know. Like, you come in asking for money. And he's like, that idea of like, I wasn't trying. I don't know. It's something I feel like you rarely see depicted in movies, but happens in life a lot. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, I didn't intend that. I didn't intend this thing that way.
Right.
And you guys are putting a narrative onto it, or like, this is how you're taking it. Mm-hmm. That's not what I meant at all. And you're completely misunderstanding me. But sometimes
you couldn't fucking talk to me about it.
Exactly.
You couldn't. Yeah.
Sometimes for the sake of short change or just to not rock the boat, you'll like let somebody's perception of what the thing meant slide without and it may be eating you up on the inside. Clooney plays this scene so perfectly of like, well, I shouldn't have to be begging for this, essentially.
Yeah.
This is due to me. But the idea that you guys think that I'm like shaking you down, like I'm not already deserving of this, like I strong-armed you into like getting a payout because I'm some greedy asshole. Like the idea that like those people that he works with, they probably don't know he's upside down on this restaurant and like all of his personal shit. They just assume that's fucking Michael Clayton. He's got fucking,
yeah,
goose that laid the golden egg. He must be fucking rocking.
Because asking for money like that will make you a liability to any firm.
Right.
Regardless of what the reason is, So, yeah, I mean, you're coming to them asking for a handout, essentially, but it's because you've never had before. Different,
and it's just the confluence of circumstances. But I love that moment of, like, he does kind of get to speak up for himself a bit, but Sidney Pollack immediately coming in with the, like, hey, he's an asshole, but he knows he's an asshole.
Right.
About the books keeping guy, who's just like, hey, we gave you this much money, we got to bring you in on this, there's some strings attached, you're going to sign a non-NDA. And again, the the trajectory, like 3-act structure, is kind of out the window at this point where you're like, was this it? Like,
yeah, what are we doing here?
Are they just going to pay off Clooney and then the movie's just going to kind of end? Like, where are we going here?
Right.
And then you start to kind of realize, like, oh, there was that. Oh, yeah, there's that fucking car bomb. Oh, yeah.
How are we going to get there?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And then you start, I love, again, I think this movie should have been up for best editing, probably should have won. But the ramp up to, we're showing you information that you've already seen visually in the opening, but we're also intercutting it with the new information. The sequence where they're in his car.
Get out.
Planting that shit.
Get out.
And he's just like, you see him watching for he's like, get out of the car now. Like the level of like, this is escalating, but I'm not yelling at you in like an action movie, like, get out of there now sort of way. It's just like
a firm, like, okay,
dude, but now like you gotta get the fuck out of there.
So when I'm remembering from the beginning, oh wait, his screen did flicker. I wonder what that's all about. Now I know why.
Yes.
You know?
So we retrace our steps, essentially. We get back to that moment. And we didn't talk about the sequence where he goes into Wilkinson's place afterwards. After he gets the seal, the city seal from his brother, the cop.
Right.
Because the place has been sealed off, and it's like, well, I'm going to go in, I'm going to get back out, put the seal back on. Nobody will be the wiser.
Right.
While he's in there, looking around, he finds the Roman Conquest book.
Right.
And the only real, like, discernible image that he sees at any point in time is some horses on a cliffside between two trees.
Right.
And you're like, oh, shit. Or at least you are when you finally pay attention to it, because, again, I didn't catch this until, like, my 4th or 5th time watching the movie. Also in this sequence, so cops show up, and it's a, show me your hands. The pace of that scene is like, oh, he's discovering like a revelation. The last thing I'm expecting is for cops to show up. And I don't know if it's something in the sound design or whatever. That was a legit jump scare in the theater.
Really?
Because you're so in it.
Yeah, it's so like, quiet with him.
What's he about to find? And it's so quiet.
Yeah.
And when those cops show up, it legit, it was a jump scare. And I was like, I was not expecting that in this movie. It's so weird.
I wasn't expecting, what's his face from Dexter?
Yeah.
I got to learn that guy's name. He's popping up everywhere.
So of course the brother's pissed off. He's like, dude, I'm about to be up for pension or the equivalent of tenure, I guess, whatever, for cops or whatever. He's like, you're putting that in jeopardy, like all this other stuff. And you're like, dude, can things get any worse for Michael Clayton? Like,
oh wait, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we catch back up with the beginning of the movie. We see the car bomb go off, and then we see what he does right afterwards, which in the theater I was like, oh my God. I was so jazzed at the idea of a guy who sees and is able to calculate within about 30 seconds and do it all on his face as well, that like, okay, this is my moment. I'm going to take all of my keys, my watch, my wallet. It's all going in the car. I'm fucking faking my death, baby. And I'm like, oh, dude, where is this going? And it leads to, I'm hard pressed to think of, in this year in particular, the only other more satisfying ending is probably There Will Be Blood.
Oh yeah, I'm finished.
Talk about a release, yes, but Karen Crowder's in the meeting with all the higher ups, and they're basically saying like, so what we decided was it's cheaper to settle than to continue to pursue this. She's trying to sell all the higher ups on like, okay, yeah, so we actually got to like pay all this out to keep these people quiet.
Because if we don't do it now and this memo gets out,
yes,
then we're going to be, it's triple that is what we're going to pay out. So you're better to let them know, tell them they can't sue you again, and then go from there.
And so she's in this meeting, and you of course know that she was like sweating bullets beforehand. You've seen her. I love her coaching herself. The pre-speeches intercut with, again, great editing. I'm like, why the fuck was this not? Why did it not win editing? I think it's because No Country did, which, again, really well edited.
Yes.
Hard to argue with. She comes out of this big, like, boardroom meeting, and Clooney's just there, and he's like, how'd it go in there? And
He calls her on the phone first, right?
No.
I thought he called her on the phone.
No. he just shows up there. That she comes out. He says, "How'd it go in there?"
No, he had the phone recording her.
Yes,
that's right.
He says, "How'd it go in there?" And she, as far as she's concerned, is seeing a ghost for at least like a fraction of a second, where she's like, "Oh fuck, he's still alive."
Yeah.
But and you it's on, and you're just like, dude, crush her.
Yes,
literally crush her. And
wait a minute. Is this where like Karen comes from now? That everybody talks about Karens who are like,
no, it could. I love Karen Crowder as a character though. Somebody who's just so in over their head.
Yeah,
they just
doesn't matter.
They don't know which way is up. And when she breaks down in this mode of like, where am I going to get $10 million? But then like cycles back around to like, okay, but we'll do this. And like all the while you're like, oh God. And then it builds up to him just being like, you're so fucked.
Yes.
I have never, like, it's just so unbelievably satisfying. And it's just dialogue and performance.
There's no, literally.
It's not even like,
she
gets her head cut off at the end of this. It's just
one.
Eviscerates
It's
her.
just one piece of action. It is just a car explosion. That is it. Everything else is just words.
This conversation is just like fireworks, dude. I'm every time I watch it, I get so pumped because I'm just like, dude, he is just gonna tell her the fuck off. And then I love the moment when Don Jeffries, the big business guy, comes out and is like, Karen, is this man bothering you? And Clooney is essentially just like, fuck this guy. Walks off, and they're like, stop that man. Stop that man. And you're like, no, the cops are here for you guys, buddy. Oh my God, so satisfying. He comes out and he's like, hey, brother, sorry about that whole SEAL thing. I just served you a giant, amazing case on a
promotion,
silver platter.
Bitch.
Exactly. Like,
and guess what?
This.
Also saves your firm because like they went down.
Yeah.
And your firm is still, that's the thing. The firm wants to keep it going. They're getting paid by the hour, baby.
Right.
It doesn't matter to them. Oh, they got to crunch it all night long?
And
hell yeah.
We're billing earlier.
They've been billing them for 7 years.
The revelation earlier when he gets the payoff of like, where Pollock is just like, you've been here for 17 years. I need to tell you how the bills get paid around here.
Exactly.
And you're like, of course he knows. And of course Clayton knows.
Yes.
Look, they know all of this fucked up shit goes on. But it's not until he's really confronted with like, they killed my friend, essentially.
Right.
Somebody who I respect and who I sat here and said was a fucking crazy person.
Right.
This whole time. And it turns out all I needed to do was listen to him, get on his side, and like maybe he'd still be here right now.
Right.
Never mind the moral centerpiece of this entire movie, which I kind of skipped over the scene, but is the right after Wilkinson is killed, his brother shows up Clooney's brother shows up at the father's birthday as they're leaving in front of his son. And he says he's been clean for a couple days or whatever, but Clooney's just immediately telling his kid, like, just get in the car. Like, don't even engage with him. And gets in, they drive away, drive him for a bit, and he stops the car and he pulls it over, and he just has like the most honest heart-to-heart you can have with like a kid of that age, where it's like you're respecting their intelligence level, that they're going to be able to get the sentiment of this with no bullshit, flowery, dumbing it down for a kid. And he's just like, I know when I look at you that you're not going to be one of those kids who grows up and walks around and wonders why there's shit falling out of the sky around him, who's just like, the way that he feels, where he's just like, I am kind of adrift right now. I don't know what my life is or where, what it all means, essentially.
Right.
And he's like, but I can look at you and tell that, like, you're not going to be one of those kids. You're not going to be like your uncle. You're a good one, essentially. Like, you're a smart kid. And he's like, do you understand? And the kid, to his credit, who doesn't have to do much in this scene other than look like a kid and deliver like one line of dialogue, meets him emotionally there, where I'm just like, this is why this movie is worth going back to over and over again, beyond just being like impeccably plotted and like having great performances. Like, it has a true moral compass and heart to it that is not like cheesy or saccharine in any way. It's just like note perfect. So I just wanted to get to that. Anyways, he eviscerates Karen Crowder, and then my man goes and gets in a taxi and tells him, Just drive. And it's one of my favorite closing sequences of any movie. It's very 70s. but and you're just sitting there and you're like, that's a goddamn movie star, dude. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, I'm just watching his face, watching him process the last 3 days of his life. What the decisions he made that led up to this point in his life, the decisions he hopefully will make going forward about like what his morals are going to be, how he wants to raise his kid, all of this stuff. And it's like, you gave me all of that, and you gave me like a fucking crackerjack thriller, like conspiracy thriller with espionage and guys creeping around and doing surreptitious shit. It's beautifully layered.
What a debut.
Yeah, exactly. It's impeccably acted. I have nothing but positive things to say about it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, one of those that, again, I hadn't seen in forever, and I was just like,
You hadn't seen it all, you said.
Well, no, I just hadn't seen in forever. Yes. It's been forever since I've seen it. Yeah, literally forever. I have never seen it. Having never seen it, I don't know what it is about the 70s, man. Like, I get it, but like, I know it's not me. I can't. So I can appreciate it when I see it.
Yeah.
Like, I fucking love Sorcerer. I fucking love Night Moves.
Yeah. You're gonna love Mikey and Nick.
I fucking love. Well, it isn't Only Good Friday's 80, right?
It's on the cusp.
Yeah, might as well be a 70s movie. I love that too. But there's just the weird thing of like, I can't let myself like get in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like.
But that's what I love about this one is like, I can be like, oh, this is like this and it's like that. And it's its own thing. The
trajectory of a 70s movie, again, would lend you to believe this is going to end with there is no justice and it is ambiguous and we don't get a payoff. So that to me is the greatest subversion of all of it, is to have that final scene where it's like, this was cathartic, holy shit.
Right.
But then in true 70s fashion, it doesn't just leave you on this high, it leaves you to ask, so what now for this guy?
Or was it all worth it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, would this have been a little bit better if you could have actually like saved Tom Wilkinson?
Postmodern, post 9/11. What was I going to say?
It's a movie about morality,
existentialism,
when we were
and
having
morality
some kind of like broad moral conversation. If you look at a lot of the movies of this year, if you want to boil it down to that, but No Country is deeply rooted in like the morals of humanity, etc. There Will Be Blood, Zodiac to a certain extent as well. Like you can draw that in the Valley of Ella in particular, like directly relating to what was going on. But you feel like a lot of people are starting to question like,
what are we doing in Iraq?
What are we doing over there? What what has been done? What has been covered up, etc.
It doesn't lend itself because it's not a place to just go to because it doesn't help for any sort of conversation. But looking at America as America in the context of what we are seeing as entertainment, you have to, on some level, tie it back to what we're feeling at the moment as a collective. Like this, I mean, for as much as California is California and Hollywood's Hollywood, we can argue that they do know what's going on with us because of what they give us when they give us it. Whether it's from an exec, a few people who may not necessarily know what it means to be in the lives of the characters they're writing about, they're still giving us this to process. And it's a quick thing to be like, oh, well, this is all just like a reaction to like, this is just, what does it mean to be a man in today's world post 9/11? Because it means, you're living in this world of like this corporate thing or whatever. You're a corporate lawyer. You're making money off greed. You live in a world where X, Y, and Z things have happened. And how do you feel about that? It's real simple to break it down to what does it mean because this one big event that happened to the U.S. It's not a thing I like to do a lot, but when you do get into these different like watermark years and different like things where you can look at specific things that were going on, it lends itself to throw that into the mix to try and figure out how is it that in this year with the birth of the rebirth, as far as I'm concerned, of the CGI action blockbuster summer thing with Transformers, and then the book adaptations that are starting to kick off and move forward, because Hunger Games isn't before this. No Country for Old Men is here, and then you get boom, everybody's making books now. That's what we do. There's tons of series that are just books that they were young adult books or they were regular novels. So it may lend itself to kind of look and see what we're doing and how we're, just there. It can't be understated, but it shouldn't be overstated as a simplification of like, oh, what's just this?
Yeah.
It's just what it's like to be a man with a moral compass issue in post 9/11, corporate law world. Boom. Well, maybe, but it can also be just a brilliant 70s influence, but also flipped on its head, and meditation on what it is to be that kind of guy as well.
Absolutely.
So,
just to cap it off, I want to say probably, I mean, it's definitely easily like top 3 Clooney performances, but I think the reason it stands out so much, I brought this up in relation to Flight and also Malcolm J. Israel.
Roman J. Israel. Malcolm J. Israel. Esquire.
Excuse me. It is getting late. That's what happens when we go for 2.5 hours.
Hell yeah.
But recent Denzel Washington movies where the reason he like really popped for me so much compared to some of the things where he's essentially just playing
he's just standing there with you. We got it.
Right.
Sorry.
Was playing characters who have that, they don't have that control. They don't have that like inherent like baddest dude in the room, dude. He's just coming here. They don't have that equalizer energy.
Right.
Like the Flight character's completely in over his head, even though he has this false confidence and like bravado and everything. So he's a complicated character. And Roma J. Israel is like extremely introverted. I don't know if you saw that one. That's Dan Gilroy, the guy who did Nightcrawler.
Okay.
His second movie. Colin Farrell's in it, dude. Good little legal threat. Honestly, the closest thing I've seen it a bit to a Michael Clayton.
Was it nominated? I kept hearing
he was nominated for Best Actor.
Okay.
Which we don't have to get into it. They say that they don't do shit like this. 110%. The Me Too allegations against James Franco came public after he had won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy. He was going to be nominated for The Disaster Artist. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%. He'd been nominated in all of the prior categories, but that Me Too story broke. The Oscars, the nominations, I think, were announced like the next week or something. And all of a sudden, Denzel, who had not been nominated in any of the prior awards, was up for Roma J. Israel. I think that is a great performance. I think it was totally deserving of being up there. But it is this weird one where, like, nobody saw that movie that year.
No.
Nobody talks about that movie.
Nope.
And yes,
I literally think
the only reason he was nominated was because they needed to sub. They had to go, what was the 6th one that people actually voted for? Or,
right.
Excuse me, what was the second choice that people actually voted for? Because we can't have him in this category. We don't want the smoke. We're staying out of this.
Right.
That's the vibe.
The only reason I know Roman J. Israel Esquire is when Bill Hader did it as Stefan, and like, New York's hottest club has everything. Twidgets, midgets, Roman J. Israel Esquire. Yeah. Like when he did that, that's the only reason I know that name. And that I had no idea. That's a crazy story.
But yeah, cast is dynamite as well. Check it out for sure. Okay.
You mentioned Denzel because Denzel wanted to do Michael Clayton but turned it down, and then
no, I did.
I get what you're saying. If you didn't intend that, it's perfect because Denzel turned down this role, and then Clooney did. But then he met Tony Gilroy, and with 2 hours was like, "I'll do it." And then Denzel saw it and was like, "Damn, I should have done that one."
I did not know that whole backstory.
You didn't?
No, I didn't do no trivia on this one. Now I'm about
trivia,
to.
yeah.
Now I'm about to.
It's gold, baby. So that was perfect synergy if you pulled Denzel out of nowhere for whatever reason you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because, there's that backstory.
So and if I'm not mistaken, instead he does like Inside Man around this time.
Right.
Spike, which is another great one that has aged really well and great to go back and rewatch. Anyways, but that's the thing that stands out the most to me is that Clooney took on this role that like on paper shouldn't work. Like I shouldn't be buying George Clooney as this guy, but I 100% buy him. Like it's just not what you naturally expect from him, and the performance is that much stronger because of it. I think it might be my personal favorite. And not overplay. It's not like I can point to a centerpiece sequence other than that scene with his son. I think is kind of the emotional core to the whole movie, which again, that's like a cherry on the top. This movie like doesn't need to have those grace notes that it totally does. It's so strong in all these other aspects as well, but it doesn't hurt. Okay, that was Michael Clayton. We both loved it. We had two great ones. This is one of my favorite 2x2s in a while, and we will be back with arguably
the most controversial,
maybe the most controversial 2x2,
right?
Ever. And now, again, the whole point of this show is not to pit movies against each other, but we're definitely doing that for this next one.
You can't not, Noah.
The brothers
We're going to figure out who's the best
are joining us for Rocky and the Karate Kid. That will be recorded very soon. You guys will probably hear it early next month, which is the start of year 5 here. It's about to be our 4-year anniversary on May the 1st. Yes. We appreciate everybody who has listened to any of our content over the last 4 years, and we hope you will stick with us in year 5 because we got a lot of fun stuff coming up.
Yes, we do. We'll tease all that stuff later.
And some other feeds as well. Thanks if you stuck in there. I know this was a long one. We love you guys. Thank you for listening. I have been Noah.
I've been Gavin.
And we've been the Blanchard Brothers.
Please spay and neuter your pets and make sure you get vaccinated. Thanks, guys. We'll see you catch you on the flips. What are we doing?
See you then, or see you on another time.
See you.
I was just going to go out with, and I'm Shiva, the god of death.
I am Shiva.
Yes.
You are
How
so
about
fucked.
We go out with glug, 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 glug.
Glug, 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 glug.